Hello and welcome, everybody. We are back for week 2 of UKITT. I am Adam Valquesse Walker, and I am joined today by Shmon the Amazing. Hello, Shmon.
Hello, I'm looking very much forward to this. I love VGC. I've been participating in a few PC like Premier challenges over the weekend myself, and now we're finally here to be able to see these matches as well. And I'm very much looking forward to what will be served here for us today.
It's very exciting. I myself have also had a Pokemon-filled weekend of the Premier Challenge and a TCG League Challenge as well. So this is all very exciting stuff to add some more Pokemon goodness to our lives. Coming up first, we have a game from Mort. Well, the set from Mort versus Brian. We got
Yeah, we've got two interesting teams, really. I think Mort has been playing the team. I've seen it quite a bit already, where you're playing with Snow this time around. If I recall correct, I'm trying to recall who played it, but it's quite threatening because that Iron Bundle can be a Specs Blizzard set, which is amazingly frightening as well. Where you have like the Snow support with the Obama Snow just being able to put up hail, being able to increase the defense, and then Aurora Veil to increase even more defenses on your Pokemon as well. And yeah, just very threatening Pokemon like Fluttermane. You have the Scarf, Great Tusk, and then the King Gambit just to prevent like a lot of intimidate rolling happening. And then of course, Dragonite is being the last Pokemon. Dragonite, a very amazing Pokemon in its own right. It's been shown to be able to be inner focus and multi-scale. And most of the time, when you have the one ability, you wish you had the other, but it is still such a great Pokemon to have as well.
for sure Dragonite, especially having both those abilities, and it's always that little bit of a gamble on playing around which one is which. I think this team has a lot of prowess carrying the high speeds across the board, but then the increased priority pressures from the Dragonite and the King Gambit on top of that just lend it so much offense. On the counter side, we've got a Ceruledge, Dragonite, Tinglu, Gastrodon, Screamtail, and Glamora staring us down.
Yeah, it's a quite interesting team because Ceruledge is something that is to be feared still. It has a nice typing with that Ghost Fire, very good offensive typing there, of course. Uh, then again, you have the possibility to go for those terras that it has been playing. We've seen Bug, we've seen Grass, we've seen Steel even, just to be able to really be able to use that Flash Fire ability as well. And then Dragonite, just as we said earlier, good, amazing priority user, just even being able to just clean up teams on its own, really, most of the time paired with Pao, but this time around on its own here as well, as we have Tinglu and I'm forgetting the name of the poison rock type there that we have there.
Glamora.
Glimora, that's the one. It's also quite interesting to see because we have seen a rise in, for example, Stealth Rock Tinglu, just trying to make sure that the switching is a bit more limited in the options that your opponent has as well. And then with Toxic Debris, also a great ability to have on the Glimora, just making sure that your opponent is always in a bad state of mind, really, to really know what to do there. Because every turn your HP will be dropping a bit, even when you protect or not.
For sure, it's definitely very threatening. These entry hazards causing issues for a lot of players. I think maybe less of an issue in this set with this being quite an aggressive team, and it kind of just wants to, as far as I understand it, just blow up its opponents. It's a bit less tactical on the switching, I would assume. However, I've personally encountered the odd Tinglu carrying Whirlwind, and that has caused me some issues. So it'll be very interesting to see what teams are coming out here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Screamtail on its own also being an interesting Pokemon. So, like, we've had Encore Disable and like Parry Song. So, very much looking forward to what this game will bring it. And as you said, it will be a bit more of an explosive game there.
For sure, and it sounds like we're ready to jump straight into it. And here we go. Leads coming out. We have the Abomasnow and the Iron Bundle coming out on this side of the field. On the opposing side of the field, we've got Screamtail and Glamora. Hail coming up, Photosynthesis triggering up with its booster energy, picking up a speed boost. Iron Bundle immediately leaving the field, Photosynthesis coming up for the boosted Flutter main. Didn't catch the boost there, and Player of hitting into a Bomber Snow. Not doing
Yeah,
significantly
exactly.
much.
And when you
Though.
see a power gem,
Friday.
into that bomber snow, just instantly taking it down there. Quite interesting turn of events there because yeah, that Iron Bundle immediately switching out, maybe fearing something that this Screamtail could have, because of course it is a bit faster thanks to that booster energy, and this Iron Bundle not having that booster energy, being able to enjoy that extra speed boost, as we do see that it is on that Flutter main there, and just the instantly going for that bomber snow, which is focus as if I recall correctly, just try and make sure that that does go down, was a very smart play from Brian's side there.
Absolutely, it's taken his ability to reset this snow, get anything up. But to be fair, that Bomber Snow didn't even get a chance to move this turn. But I can understand why the Iron Bundle left with the Power Gem coming out. It is very scared of being hit by that thing. It's not known for its special defensive stats. And it's going to be interesting to see what is going to come out in its place. And the Iron Bundle has returned back to the field once more.
Yeah, then we see both just double protecting there, just protecting a spiky shield to see what the opponent will do here on Mortis' side. As we do see the Blizzard and the Moonblast just going into those protects. And now we have that option of disable that has a possibility there. So we do see the Flood Main going for the Shadow Ball just into... as we do see that disable from the Screamtail as the Mortal Spin comes out from the Glamora there as well, just slowly chipping away at now this Dragonite and this Fluttermane. Interesting turn of events here, to say the least, because yeah, that was a very smart switch there, removing that Iron Bundle from the field, just trying to avoid that disable, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Taking avoiding that disable was spot on and helped maintain momentum. Though, as we mentioned during team selection, Glamora putting that poison damage down through Mortal Spin rather than Toxic Debris on this occasion is going to start ticking up those extra little bits of damage, putting further things into easier KO ranges for themselves and its partners in the back, having not lost anything on the field yet in exchange for all this extra damage that is racking up.
Yeah, so this coming turn will be quite important as well, because of course Brian still not really having lost any Pokemon yet, and you still have that Glimora on the field, which is a threatening Pokemon because it can just power gem into, for example, that Dragonite slot, because Iron Bundle not really a great of a switch in either.
Yeah, Iron Bundle does not want to receive that switch, and we will see if it's going to. Snow's falling down, poison's ticking up as we go into the following round. We get Terra Normal coming out for Dragonite. Iron Bundle, that.
The Screamtail, yeah.
That's the one.
That's the
one. Protecting itself, extreme speed going in, setting up that toxic debris, and not quite picking up the KO with the Shadow Ball from Fluttermane into Glamora, receiving a Shadow Ball for its worries and losing a fair chunk of health itself.
Yeah, exactly. Seeing that the Terra Normal Extreme Speed plus the Shadow Ball not KOing the Glamora, probably also being a Solfest set there, making sure that it is able to survive there. Just expert EVs, really. And now the threat of that, now you have your Screamtail still that has Disable Encore, but the Glimora is low. The Fluttermane is definitely faster. The Dragonite has extreme speed to possibly KO the Screamtail as well at this range. It is bulky, but I do not believe it to survive an extreme speed Terra Normal Dragonite, right?
You'd assume not so, but yeah, it is, as you say, bulky, and the amount of times that Screamtails have lived things that they feel like they shouldn't have done. So we will see how it's trained as we roll into the next round. Poison's ticking down once more. Screamtail leaving the field this time, bringing in Ceruledge, fearing that extreme speed. However, it does receive the extreme speed and is all good, but doubling in with that insurance with the Shadow Ball and taking 50% of health to its worries. But in doing so, Fluttermane leaves itself open for that Power Gem and does drop out of the field.
Yeah, that was interesting. Probably predicting a protect from the Glamora there. I absolutely forgot. It can be an Assault Vest if it already protected, of course. That is one of those things that you have with Assault Vest. You can't use any sort of status move. Only attacking moves allowed here. So really quite impressive. Just trying to predict there. The shadow ball into that Serral Edge slot as well, switching in, was quite impressive to see, and not doing all that much damage, I might add. So quite interesting to
Yeah,
see what this will bring.
only taking 50%. Either that is one very bulky Serral Edge, or I'm more inclined that this could be the one of the more bulky Flutter main spreads that seems to have been floating around quite recently. There's been a few of these sort of Flutter mains that are being designed to live far too many things, but in doing so are sacrificing a little bit of their offensive power for it. So that could be what we're being seen demonstrated here for us here.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what the next turn brings as the Iron Bundle is finally back in it again. There's no snow, so Blizzard isn't 100% accurate. As we do see the spiky shield, excuse me, as we do see the spiky shield onto the extreme speed, taking a bit more damage there as well. While the freeze drive from the Iron Bundle into the Scream Tail doing a bit more damage, but not getting the KO just yet either way.
Aye,
So
just missing out on that KO is unfortunate. However, I think that actually does put Mort in a fairly solid position as he can threaten down both things on the opposing side of the field right now, while he's looking to make these reactive switches for Brian. I think that weirdly keeping it alive, keeping the Scream Tail alive there has actually benefited more than probably is suggested.
yeah, and now because the Dragonite going for extreme speed and the Iron Bundle is locked into freeze dry, this bulk like this Serral Edge actually looking kind of nice too as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's going to be king in positioning, and I think it's just trying to catch it. Should it go for that terror, which I would uh, assume is grass, as I think that is its sort of most common one.
Yeah.
However, I think seeing the freeze dry, it might not want to stay there.
No, let's see what the next turn brings us, really. Because it is quite interesting to see, as we do see a double into the spiky shield, trying to get that as the extreme speed does go into that Scream Tail, just taking the KO there, and the freeze dry into the Glimmerog, taking the KO there. So being able to take two Pokemon down in one turn is very nice, but that toxic, like that poison timer is still ticking down, unfortunately.
It is ticking down, and what we see is Cerulege returning to the field once more, not really scared of the two Pokemon in front of it, and Tinglu joining him on the field, which, while should be scared of the freeze dry coming through it, its Vessel of Ruin is going to be weakening that damage. Could still potentially be the Assault Vest set, which is, as we all know, I think the bulkiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
So while it should, in theory, fear it on type advantage and actual damage output, it might not do quite so much.
Exactly. And Dragonite being low, but it has a Terra Normal right now, so not really feeling too threatened by the Serral Edge in case it wanted to go for a Shadow Sneak right now. But on the other hand, that Serral Edge still being at 50%. Iron Bundle Freeze Dry will do a bit of damage, but will it do enough to this Serral Edge is the question.
Because going into the turn,
it's of course
we've got Protect coming out from the Tinglu, keeping it nice and comfortable and catching that extreme speed as it is its only real viable target. Freeze Dry coming in, only taking 14% off the Serral Edge and taking a Bitter Blade for its troubles, actually healing the Serral Edge further than it started after catching the freeze dry. So I think this probably is an unfortunate position for Mort where Brian can just clean up with these last little bits of ticks, be that through stalling this poison out or through just shadow sneaking and bitter blading, getting a little bit of extra damage down to wrap up in this next turn or two.
Exactly. This does look like a done deal now. We have seen a lot of things happen in Pokemon, but this looks very set in stone, so to say. I just realized as well that Brian's team are all references to songs that I've seen recently past to Guardians of the Galaxy as well. I just realized.
That has just clicked. That is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's been quite amazing to see. And we do see the extreme speed doing quite a bit to the thing.
That does a lot, absolutely.
To have, actually. And the Shadow Sneak. So we do know that Dragonite is Choice Banded, and the I forgot the name, Booster Bundle, my bad, is also Choice Specs. So when you have a lot of these choice items, it's very nice to use like the boost that it gives you. But if you are put in a position where you rather not click those moves, as for example, exactly in this case, it's quite hard to try and pivot around that, especially if you have a bit more offensive team and you lose turn one of your bulkiest Pokemon that you have being that Abomasnow, of course.
Yeah, I think that loss of momentum in turn one definitely put Mort on the back foot. However, there was a lot of positive pieces to come out of that game, and hopefully they can carry some of that extra knowledge they've now gained from this on what damage they're going to be able to do and how their opponent's Pokemon have been trained into this following game. And we'll see if they can turn things around.
Exactly. Now that we can see, we have already seen that Brian is able to go for plays that make sure to go for disable and like just try and mix it up a bit, trying to be get in the head of Mortuto, of course. But yeah, you have to like try and get past that first game, and now next game is going on, and now you have to completely try and change your mindset to win this next game, of course. So let's see what they start off with.
Coming out onto the field for Brian first is the Tinglu and the Screamtail, and facing them down from Mort is King Gambit and Flutter Mane. Both of these Pokemon bringing the trainers bringing their fairy types out to the field to fairy and dark types even bringing out. So there's very similar but different leads coming out. We shall see.
It's the same but different.
Exactly. They've got
No,
their very fast fairy and their very slow dark.
that is that is exactly true there. It is interesting to see because we have seen that the Screamtail is quite bulky there, so Shadow Ball not being able to kill it. These both these pairs have the booster energy boosting their speed as well, and we do know that this Tinglu will lower special attack from all sides, meaning this Flutterwing will do less damage as well. And King Gambit, of course, it is a dark typing, but it is also that steel typing. So not really keen on getting those ground type attacks from any sort of Tinglu, really.
No, it definitely doesn't want to take those. Given the situation, I'm expecting we'll see a Terra type from at least one side of the field here, or at least some active switching, and we will see what's coming in. Photosynthesis boosters are both triggering off. The text is going high and coming out. We see Fluttermane just protecting. I'm wrong on these Terra types, also protecting. This is just fairies protect each other. Low kick coming out, putting big damage into the Tinglu, and heavy slam going into that protect from the Fluttermane.
See, this was a really good play there. Just banking it on this low kick, of course, being a very strong attack, certainly on Tinglu, which is quite heavy as well. And Fluttermane just protecting, trying to make sure that it does not get killed by a heavy slam. It's the main reason why you play heavy slam on Tinglu, of course, to get that Fluttermane, because it is being used for 74% in all of the teams. So you kind of have to deal with it some way or another.
Yeah, it's definitely a fairly meta-defining Pokemon. But yeah, it was interesting seeing those fairies both operating in very similar ways, and but that overall turn just seemed to bring brilliant momentum for Mort there.
Yeah, exactly. And now we can see what these fairies are now planning to do in this turn, as we do see the Terra on the Screamtail as the Floodmane does go for Moonblast, instantly queuing that Tinglu as the Disable does come out on King Gambit, instantly switching moves as well, going for Kowtow Cleave and critting as well. Wow, turn of events there. Disabled, just trying to make sure that low kick would not work on it. Seeing that this could happen, just redirecting the Floodmane into that Tinglu, making sure that the Tinglu at least goes down, while this King Gambit is able to change moves and just go for that nice looking Kowtow Cleave into that Screamtail.
For sure, that's two very strong momentous turns there coming out for Mort, not taking any damage, literally just catching a disable, and that's the only effect hitting them. And I think it was very clever of Mort to not go for the comfortable Iron Head into the fairy type staring it down, but to actually go for that Kowtow Cleave to cover for this potential terrestrial option. And getting that big damage on the crit is just a nice added bonus on top of that. However, Ceruledge coming into play here is pressuring both of these Pokemon from Mort. So it is, while the momentum is in Mort's court, it's definitely not game over.
Exactly. It is quite interesting to see because, like, if, for example, the King Gambit was being on court, it would have been locked into that low kicks, would have been quite not so great right now. But exactly as you said, let's see what is going to happen there in this turn, because That it's still Pokemon, as we do see the Terra from the King Gambit this time around.
Oh, we see the Terra, and it's Terra Fire coming out. There's a couple of Terra types that people seem to be running, but that is catching that bit of blade and taking a very little damage from it in return. Hitting the Kowtow Cleave and dropping the Cerulege to 2% HP, barely keeping itself alive. Following turn coming through, Shadow Sneak going straight and one-shotting the
Fluttermane.
Fluttermane. Yes,
Yeah,
these
exactly.
Pokemon's names keep escaping me.
That's all right. They're long names these days, as we do see
Yeah.
the King Gambit with the Kowtow Cleave taking out the Cerulege finally with the second hit there. Because you don't want to leave that Cerulege there with that possibility of always healing with the move with Bitter Blade, of course, as well.
Yeah, it definitely keeps itself healthy and taking a fairly small chunk. 14% is a fairly respectable chunk on a resisted attack from the play rough as well. But King Gambit poised to probably wrap up this game. Well, at least provide enough pressure to give Mort the momentum to carry this through.
Exactly. So now that Cerulege is down, what is the last Pokemon that is possibly coming in here? On the other side, we have the King Gambit, of course, with the versus that Screamtail. Screamtail Howl is very nice to have. Don't get me wrong. It is very nice, as we see Playrough do quite a bit of damage on the resistant move. But now, what will this Screamtail really bring? Because King Gambit is able to just go, for example, for a Sucker Punch there.
It could go for the Sucker Punch, and there's no way of catching the Disable. But we do still get the Encore Mind Games when it does so there is still little games to be played there. Abomasnow coming out here, setting the hail up, and Gastrodon coming in for Brian. Playrough going through, putting a respectable amount of damage into the Abomasnow, but demonstrating its bulk. Leaf Storm coming out and putting huge damage and taking the one-hit KO on the Gastrodon there. Kowtow Cleave coming in and finishing off Screamtail to wrap up this game in Mort's favor in a comfortably dominating fashion, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. It was quite well adapted there. King Gambit really putting in a lot of work there, especially with the Terra Fire. Just being able to resist the Bitter Blade, and in return being able to do a lot of damage to like the offensive threats on Brian's side as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a change of pace from the previous game. Brian perhaps predicting a run back on the double hail, and Mort adapting very well to it for it.
Exactly. Like the Screamtail was a very good pick to lead off with as well. So let's see what we are going to get in game 3, because of course you can lead with the Screamtail yet again. We have seen that, the Tinglu, when it's under 40%, it is able to get killed by this Fluttermane, by a Moonblast there, but there are still options there, like the Glimmora, for example, that did put a lot of work in game 1. So I'd like to see that return for game 3, actually.
Yeah, I think Glimmora will be really good to see. So that passive damage, slow the pace of the game down, and bring it back into Brian's control, as opposed to more putting on that pressure, putting his foot on the gas, and turning the speed up. So we will see how this is going to go. Are we going to get something fast? Are we going to get something slow? Are we going to get a little bit of passive damage? We're getting Screamtail back on the field once more, rolling it back with the Tinglu, and coming out for Mort, we have King Gambit and Abomasnow this time. 3/4 the same. However, our fairy is now an abominable snowman.
Exactly. So it's quite interesting to see. We have seen what happened the last turn. Low kick doing quite a bit of damage to this Tinglu, and Abomasnow. Look, I get it. He's an ice and grass type. He doesn't have. You can hit it in a lot of super effective ways, but you will respect his snow warning and the blizzards coming out. So this Tinglu, better look out for what is going to happen, because it does not want to get hit by the King Gambit low kick and a possible blizzard there. On the other hand, of course, Iron Head from the King Gambit into that Screamtail, also not the greatest option there. So really going to have to see if they can get inside of each other's heads right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a mind game coming out here, and Snow Warning, Snow Problem as Abomasnow might get to see a little bit more gameplay this time. Booster Energies and kicking off, Snow Warning doing its thing, King Gambit leaving the field, Dragonite coming into play here, Howl coming out from the Screamtail. I didn't even know it learned Howl personally, and Blizzard coming out from Abomasnow putting a respectable amount of damage. However, both of them living comfortably in the green.
Exactly. So that means this is now a +1 Tinglu. And Tinglu also, despite his bulk, has to be respected for its offensive prowess as well. Because I've seen Choice Band Tinglu, I have seen the Clear Amulet Tinglu, and these are things to be feared. Yes, you can possibly get fissured, but an earthquake from Tinglu will hurt just as much, really. And maybe even predicting right now, going for a rock slide possibly as well, as we can see what this turn will bring right now.
It's very far.
As
So
we,
it's Stomping Tantrum coming in and bouncing off the flying type and not even being able to connect with the feet of our Dragonite.
yep, as we do see the play rough from the I keep forgetting it as well. Screamtail. Now you've been affected here, doing quite a bit of damage as the Dragonite goes for outrage, but unfortunately you cannot choose your target, so it goes into that Screamtail. As now the Tinglu is able to go for a heavy slam onto the King Gambit, not doing that much damage, but the King Gambit a good solid switch there. But this Dragonite not really enjoying its time right now because it is locked into outrage, and a second play rough will absolutely do pain.
For sure. The outrage going into the Screamtail was heartbreaking. I understand exactly what the play was. It will put so much damage into, and probably, I think it probably would have picked up the Tinglu from there. And if that felt like the answer that had to be done, it had to be done. Bringing King Gambit in, though, is nice. It covers a lot of potential options here. But with Tinglu still alive, it is not sitting as pretty as it would have been if the outrage had connected the way that Mort was after.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see what this next turn will bring. Will this Dragonite switch, will it just, or will this King Gamma be able to KO something? As we do see the switch to the Abomasnow play rough from the Screamtail into Abomasnow, doing a bit of damage thanks to that snow, still kicking. As the, speaking of kicking, King Gamma going for the low kick, not a KO, as a Stomping Tantrum onto the King Gamma will take it out with an extra crit on top as well. Just a little sweet kiss goodbye there as well from the from Tinglu there on that side.
Yeah, a little bit of extra flavour. However, having received that howl buff earlier, I don't think the crit might have been as influential as it could feel. A bomb of snow coming in, taking not too much damage at all, is sitting pretty good again. Will be interesting to see how the plays are going to change here. Momentum feels very much in Brian's court at the moment with damage buff across the board, but Tinglu isn't looking terribly happy, so probably about to lose that special special defense through special offense reduction. That makes sense.
Exactly. And these are long names, long abilities. It's everything, man. As we do see the Fluttermane coming in with this booster energy, heightening its speed, as we see the Moonblast coming out into that Screamtail, doing a bit of damage, not enough. As the play rough with a critical hit, not taking out his Amama Snow. Snow is unbeatable right now. It's feeling good as the Blizzard comes out and takes out the Tinglu as well. Now, Snow does give you a heightened defense buff, but surviving that crit howl from this Screamtail was still quite an impressive feat to see as well.
Bomber Snow certainly is holding down the thickness. Fluttermane is now, I think, feeling quite comfortable here. Big down, low HP on that Screamtail, and potentially a very good offensive matchup into the rest of the team. So it'll be interesting to see what Brian's going to do to adapt to this situation. Abomasnow looking low is scary for him, but I'm sure that for Mort rather, that whatever Mort has in the back will be able to. It's the Dragonite we've seen already, isn't it? Yes, should be able to bring in some extra pain.
Exactly. As we do see the Screamtail going for that Terra Water as the Fluttermane does go for the Protect, as the Shadow Sneak will take out that Dragonite there. Dragonite. The Abomasnow there as the play rough, of course, going into that Protect, not doing that much. Now now we're in a position where the Dragonite can click extreme speed, could possibly go for a KO onto the Screamtail, while this Fluttermane can do Shadow Ball again. But we have already seen that Shadow Ball only does 50%, so these are the last final turns that decide the game, really.
Yeah, we've seen Shadow Ball only does 50%, and earlier on we saw the Shadow Sneak also does pick up the one hit on Flutter. But we haven't seen the Terra type come out for Mort yet. So depending on what the Terra types on these Pokemon could be, could still influence these final few turns and see if we've got a little bit more fight left in them.
Yeah, it was able to one kill, but it was hull boosted that previous turn. As you do see the Moonblast into the Screamtail does manage to take the kill there with the Terra Fairy, as Dragonite is going for that outrage. A
Whoa!
strong outrage there, just being able to kill that. And the last Pokemon coming in is that Glimora, and Glimora does not want to be at the receiving end of a Choice Banded outrage, as the Fluttermane will be able to probably take 2 hits from this Glimora as well.
For sure. Oh my god, that outrage damage. I was expecting it to do a lot. I was not expecting it to pick up the one hit KO, and I don't think Brian was either. So yeah, we were talking about a fight being left in more, and there is absolutely so much fight. There is more than fight, there is sheer outrage at the position he was in, and is turning this game around. Let's see what Glamora can do to try and save Brian's final chances in these dying turns. Spiky Shield coming out here. To catch that shadow ball and that extra little bit of outrage, probably looking to do that extra bit of chip damage and catch that confusion turn if it goes into being 2. However, Dragonite keeping itself sane for one more turn.
Yeah, and the Shadow Ball plus the Outrage will do it, taking out the creep, of course. The creep that is Glamora, meaning that Mort is able to win this game, and well played there from both these players. It was quite a spectacle to see, really. It was very well played, honestly. I can't really add much to it except for that. The fun fact that I do have to add is that, of course, Dragonite with Outrage, when it's unaffected. Like if you, for example, switch in a fairy type Pokemon, it will not be confused because the move will on its own will be half failed. So it's only when outrage has done its thing, then the Pokemon itself will get confused. But still, this is such a strong move. It's 120 base power. It's strong. It is Choice Band. It is a Dragonite. And it is something really to fear, really, to see.
Yeah, and we definitely saw it in like seasons 1 and 2. Dragonite outrages hitting home on the big damage and just adding sort of Shenpao in modern times pressure, but Dragonite proving that it doesn't need its little snow leopard pet keeping it around to prove that it can pick up the KOs all on its own.
Yeah, exactly. So the Dragonite putting in a lot of work, but if we're looking at the teams themselves, I feel like King Gambit was putting a lot of work for Mort there, because game 2 it was like the main decider, and game 3 it was still able to be switched in on not super effective moves, or switching it out for the Dragonite onto the Stomping Tantrum. Just that King Gambit still being in that key position, trying to make sure that it is favorable yet. For example, because like that Tinglu is something that is threatening, and you don't want Tinglu to stay on the field for too long, because yeah, it's Tinglu. You don't wanna mess with that.
Yeah, it's definitely the king of grinding an advantage out where it wants to. And yeah, King Gambit may be the king. Even going down in those final stages of that previous game, it was, as you mentioned, Shmon, it's just capable of taking the hits that it needed to, putting yourself in the position and applying that pressure while it didn't go for any massive attacks. Just by existing, it exerted the pressure for the rest of the team to pick up the damage it needed to.
All right, and we do have our next game as well. It is Phil versus Scotty that we have here, and they have quite interesting teams because we liked Snow the previous game. That means that we will have Snow this game as well. Excuse me, this game as well, as we do see Snow and one of my favorite combos personally, Annihilate Mousehole. This is something that a lot of people fear because there's a lot of 50-50s decided with Mousehole Annihilate. Don't get me wrong, but I love doing those 50-50s.
I too am very biased to the Mouse Ape teams as a player of one myself quite frequently. And yeah, having Snow back to back is always interesting. However, staring Phil down is Scotty with the team of that is not Tinglu. It's the fish. I've forgotten the goldfish's name.
Chiyu.
It's Chiyu.
Yeah.
It's Chiyu, Amoonguss, Gyarados, Iron Hands, Fluttermane, Baxcalibur.
Exactly.
I was about to say another one, but that is the trainer icon stood next to them. I was about to be very confused.
I actually have played this team as well with Baxcalibur. It is very nice. It is very balanced as well. This is a nasty plot Chi-Yu together with like just a berry Amoonguss just to be able to redirect as much as possible. And this Gyarados, listen, I need to tell you, ever since Series 3, I fell in love with Gyarados. Gyarados has Whirlpool, has Thunderwave, has Waterfall. It's been really amazing. And recently, I have been having a debate with someone about Iron Hands, if Volt Switch is viable or not. But it is, man. It's just good pivoting. It gives you always
Uh,
that option to
I
have
think
that.
historically, being able to, I mean, if we look at singles history, being able to vault turn out of any situation has been immensely valuable, and we've seen in VGC history as well that having that late switch, be that with parting shots or with something like U-turn and volt switch, it just puts so much pressure on the field and allows you to respond adaptively to a evolving field state later on in a turn rather than taking those damage on the switch-ins.
Exactly. And let's see what we'll be having here for this battle as well, because it is bound to be interesting to see as we do see the Amoonguss there on the one hand and the Chiyu there. Just being able to redirect and Chiyu just really enjoy its time as we do see the favorite matchup here with Mousehold and Nihilip, something that is very nice to see. But standing across from Amoonguss, not really the best thing you want to, not really the most fun thing to see as well.
Absolutely. I actually played this exact lead a couple of times in my Premier Challenge on Saturday, so I understand the gambles that are going through both players' heads right now. I don't know what this mouse, if this mousehold is carrying taunt or not, but that is an option it has available to it, and when it does so, it turns the match from a Amoonguss centric problem to a taunted Amoonguss, but you still got Chi guaranteed to have its a nasty plot up. You've got potential terror types coming out all over the board. There are so many gambles to be made on each player's side that this could go any direction, and it's always fun and nerve wracking as a player. So we can see what will be
Exactly.
going through them.
Absolutely. Like I've come across a lot of Annihilates with with the Vital Spirit sometimes where they don't want to share the team sheets, but at this point I'm pretty sure both players do know each other's team here. And it's interesting to see because yeah, you have so many different options that you can do. You can have Mousehold going for the beat up onto the Annihilate, just trying to go for Rage Fist for Amoonguss, but most of the time the Amoongusses have been trained just enough to make sure that they can survive something like that. But yeah, maybe the meta adaptation from the Annihilate, just putting a bit more attack there, just making sure that the Amoonguss does go down. That's the fun of Pokemon, because like even when there's open team sheets, there's still a lot to explore with the stats and natures.
Yeah, there's nothing ever set in stone from the beginning, and we're going into this turn. We're seeing Terra Water coming out from the Annihilate here, Rage Powder coming in for the Amoonguss, trying to redirect. Have safety goggles on that mousehold, keeps it comfortable, getting that beat up straight into its intended target. Nasty Plot getting the boost on the Chi-Yu, and the Annihilate going for the Rage Fist into Amoonguss. Amoonguss living on 16 HP, eating its berry, and sitting comfortable. It's an interesting turn there for both players.
Yeah, exactly. Because now you do have the movies that is still able to redirect possibly, and Achieve is able to go for, let's say, a heat wave. But now the Mousehold has done its job, beat up onto the Annihilate, and now Mousehold's job is just to support his Annihilate, and most of the time it will just follow me and make sure that this Annihilate doesn't get hurt as much as it should. Because yeah, with Achieve now a +2, a Dark Pulse, of course, will be still good damage because you are a +2. But follow me, we'll redirect that. Heat Wave will not do that much because the Nihilip is now a water type, will be able to survive that as well. So this is yet again a game where you have to really choose those 50-50s as in what is gonna happen. Chiyu could just as well just go for Protect while the Amoonguss tries to go for a cheeky Spore onto Annihilate, for example. But as we have seen that the beat up does not redirect, this mouse hold is safety goggles as well. So it is quite interesting to see what will happen.
Yeah, it's definitely some gambles to be played here with the turns coming out and Annihilate grabbing a little bit of HP from its leftovers. Mousehold, Follow Me becoming the center of that attention. Similarly, Rage Powder coming out for Amoonguss. Both supports going, hey, attack me! Nasty Plot coming out again from Chi-Yu and Rage Powder. All the Rages. Rage Fist going into the Rage Powdered Amoonguss, finishing it off. So, how are you feeling about this board position from both players?
This is still scary because, of course, Chiyu now doesn't have any Pokemon next to it right now, but you have that possibility of Iron Hands to possibly fake out one of the targets like Masoud or Annihilate so Chiyu can deal some damage. But that is yet again another gamble you have to make with Masoud Annihilate. I feel like Annihilate Masoud is just, yeah, call it heads or tails. Like they're just asking you that every turn. and now really having to choose what will be switched in, really, because yeah, this is still rough because Chi needs to be able to do its damage, and even with a heat wave, and with that friend guard, that annihilate will not go down. Mousehold, sure, it will go down, but this is an annihilate. It has a lot of HP and it has a lot of possibilities to be super super bulky as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Chi though is at +3, so even with that heat wave and the resistance and the Frank guard, it's gonna still do massive damage at +3. Not +3, at +6, +3, +4, +4,
Plus
3
4.
times. There are numbers going on here today. +4 is gonna put huge damage still into this Annihilate, even with all of these resistance bonuses stacking up on it. So whatever comes in here wants to be enabling that Chi to start just putting the pressure down, be that with spread damage, be that with anything. However, what we're getting here is Fluttermane coming in to the field, probably applying some even more pressure going for the
Ooh.
Terrafire with Protosynthesis, Terra Fairy with Protosynthesis on special attack. Dazzling Gleam coming out here. Mousehold clinging on with 7% HP from that follow me. Heatwave coming through. Annihilate living in the red, but sticking around, going for that Rage Fist. And Chi Yu also living in the red. This is it's tight.
I fear that the mouse ape didn't call it right there, because of course now, because of all that damage with the dazzling gleam, with the lowered special defense, this Floodmane was able to do quite a bit, not get the full KO onto the mouse hold, but do enough to this annihilate, as this annihilate is slower than both of these Pokemon, and it going for Rage Fist. A Rage Fist means that it didn't get any recovery from its HP except for its little leftovers of recovery that will put him from 15 to 21%. Not really the best, the best way to keep your Annihilate this low, but of course, there's still another Pokemon that has the possibility in the back there. For example, Iron Bundle, because Iron Bundle does have the option of just being able to Icy Wind and just lower these Pokemon speed, so this Annihilate is able to possibly be faster as well, and just make sure that it is able to deal with either of these Pokemon, as what we will see in the next turn as well.
Yeah, so it's picking up that every little helps, and it is Shen Pao coming in here, in a similar position to the Iron Bottle. It just applies the speed pressure there. Chiyu deciding to leave the field, feeling threatened, even with all of its boost. Intimidate coming through, proccing that Defiant, but does drop the attack on Shen Pao, letting Fluttermane live and get off another Dazzling Gleam, cracking Shen Pao down to its sash and finishing off Annihilate before it's capable of doing anything else here.
Yeah, this was an interesting turn to say the least, because of course with that Intimidate you are guaranteeing that your Qin Pao is not able to kill the Fluttermane, but as we see, it only did a little bit over 50%, meaning this Fluttermane even without Intimidate would have survived. This is always a good way to check if it would have been KO'd or not. Of course, crits can always happen, don't get me wrong there, but yeah, the Annihilate being this low, wanted to abuse that Defiant, but not really being able to, because of course that Fluttermane is the fastest thing on is the second fastest thing on the field now, with that Qin Pao onto the field as well.
Yeah, Shen Pao down sitting on its sash, still providing a lot of pressure onto the field with that Sucker Punch, with its natural speed. Potential speed ties between Fluttermane and Shen Pao are never fun, but they're always an option that could still go on here. We did see Shen Pao outspeed on this turn, but there is no guarantee that that is going to maintain for the rest of the play. And whatever Phil wants to bring in here to support that Shen Pao, he has 1% HP to play with for the rest of this game.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to see what he will bring out now, because we haven't seen that last month, of course. So seeing that, we do see it's Ting Lu, and we don't know that Qin Pao is able to kill the Fluttermane, but Fluttermane can protect, as we do see double protect from Qin Pao and the Fluttermane as a waterfall from the Gyarados into that Qin Pao, trying to make sure that is dealt with, as the Ting Lu just goes for a throat shot and doing quite a bit of damage to this Gyarados, to be honest. And
yeah, it's doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, exactly. And as we do see the following turn a bit already.
Yeah, it did a lot of damage to that Gyarados, which mean there's a couple of ways this Tinglu could be. It could be that really offensive band set that's been playing around. Or the Gyarados could actually be faster and a lot less bulkier, especially since go for the Waterfall instead of the Whirlpool that some are carrying. Meaning a little bit more offensive leaning, putting a little bit more pressure on in that way. Tinglu coming into the field here. It's an interesting one because in comes some of the earlier turns, I think it'd have been very valuable to drop those special attacks coming from the Fluttermane and the Chi-Yu when they were at their presence. However, while keeping itself alive, it's going to struggle a lot more with Shenpao keeping that alive, being stuck on its 1 HP that it is now.
Yeah, exactly. So seeing what this next turn will bring us, because Gyarados is slower, Chiyu is slower, as we do see Ice Spinner onto the Gyarados, but it's surviving, going for that Figgy Berry, Waterfall coming out onto the Chimpao, just being able to deal with that, as a Tinglu is the only thing left, as it does go for the Heavy Slam onto the Chiyu, and the Chiyu will go down. But now it is the Tinglu solely on the field versus Gyarados and Fluttermane. Gyarados, of course, being able to hit it super effectively because that, of course, the Terrestrialize has already been used for the, so on the Annihilate earlier. Tinglu is able to get the knockout on the Fluttermane, but this feels like it is just out of range for the Gyarados for a throat chop there.
It's a bit of a gamble here because it could be on that damage roll. We saw on the first one, it brought it down to 51, doing that 49 damage on that first one. It's sitting at 48 at the moment, so there's still a little bit of gambles to be played there. And we're in this weird state where this all depends on how bulky this Tinglu is. If it can handle either two fairy attacks or two waterfalls, to whether it can clutch this through as Fluttermane is definitely in KO range. That one's a given. The Gyarados is a little bit of a dice roll. How bulky is Tinglu feeling? Does it like Phil enough to try and keep itself around?
Let's take a look. As this Tinglu goes in the turn, as we do see Moonblast doing quite a bit, 56% as a waterfall, barely missing out on the kill. Is this Tinglu able to kill something? Yes, it is able to kill the Fluttermane, but we already have seen that the Gyarados is faster, so unfortunately, the next waterfall will do it, and Tinglu does go down there.
Yeah, Tinglu might be one of the bulkiest Pokemon out there, but taking 3 attacks, especially including that Terra boosted Moonblast, is definitely going to be even out of this Tinglu's remit. Putting up a hell of a fight though, and that game, well, look at from the early to 50-50s to the potential field dominance of that high-powered Chi-Yu has been swung in both directions. To come down to quite a nail-biting finish is definitely exciting stuff for us to see.
Yeah, and exactly. Well played by Scotty there on that end. Let's see what this next game will bring. What would you really switch up for Phil's side?
On Phil's side, I'm not too sure. Mouse Ape is always fun to make those gambles and play those 50-50s. So I think there's still a chance to roll back on that Mouse Ape and go, no, I can just play this better. There's always that option available to you. However, being able to still threaten with the hail side of the things, I do think that Scotty's team can answer that hail fairly efficiently. However, it doesn't. Nothing like sitting there in front of 2 blizzards, and freeze dry puts out plenty of pressure on its own right from bundle. I think Tinglu was the right call, but I personally would have liked to see it come into the field earlier and start putting more pressure onto the Fluttermane and the Chi-Yu earlier on and trying to keep things alive a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. That could have been a game changer there, because like instead of like with mouse hold, you could potentially just go Tingaloo plus the Annihilate and then just try and start bulking up, possibly with the Annihilate, and then Tingaloo just lowering all the special attacks that you need and just being able to chip all the special attackers on the opposing side, as Chiyu doesn't like to take a stomping tantrum, and Fluttermane does not like taking a heavy slam, for example, as well. So it is interesting to see what like the teams will switch up here.
Yeah, let's get exciting as things go into this. Leads coming out. It looks like it might be Mouse Ape once more for Phil, and Scotty responding with the change up into Iron Hands and Fluttermane. Special attacking and physical attacking, so a mixed attacking series with less redirection coming out here for Scotty. What kind of options do these players have available to them?
Well, we do have the Iron Hands being able to fake out the possible mouse hold, or if they're really cool, fake out the Annihilate while it's going for that Terra Water, which you could possibly do. But the most logical play, I feel, could be a double protect from mouse hold Annihilate, just making sure that the fake out option is gone already, not risking any sort of Terra yet. I don't know if Scotty has a way to really abuse the fact that if Mousehold and Annihilate would go for a protect both on their sides. Because, for example, if the Fluttermane is substitute, that is a whole different story. You do not want to risk that, of course. So it's gonna be interesting to see, but I think a protect is the play to go really.
Yeah, Protect is definitely safe here. However, we've seen Terra Water from the thing, from the Annihilate, so he's still scared of the Iron Hands. Chiyu coming into play here to drop those defenses. Terra Fire, Fairy coming out, Protect coming through. Double Protect, as you said, predicted correctly here, just to scout out what's going on, keeping the Annihilate around a little longer. We've seen the Terror committed for Scotty there. Fairy into that Fairy, going for that Moonblast, which would have picked up that Oko, especially with the Chiyu coming in and dropping the special defense across the field.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have that option of going for that guaranteed Terra Water with Annihilate because like Moonblast with Terra Water, it is like you a lot of times you have Terra Fire Annihilate, but this time around with Terra Water you don't resist. But you do resist the heat wave for a possible Chi. But like Moonblast and a Dark Pulse are still moves that you don't like to be on the receiving end of. But on the other hand, that and I like if then you have Maushold just with the follow me, just redirect it and Annihilate just being able to deal as much damage as possible there in that regard. So it is interesting to see what will happen this turn because they could also go for double spread as we do see the follow me from the Maushold as the Moonblast comes out, picks up the kill on the Annihilate being faster as the Chiyu going for a cheeky nasty plot as the Annihilate goes for the Dream Punch, not killing the Chiyu just yet, but now it is very threatening to see that the Chiyu there with a +2, which is faster than the Annihilate, and you do have your Chimpa, which is faster than the Chiyu, but then you have the Fluttermeter. You have to keep. There's a lot of things you gotta keep track of, really.
Yeah, that term was definitely an interesting one there. These trades going down of losing the mouse hold in favor of getting big damage into that chi, especially with it going for that cheeky nasty pot, getting its boost, staying around, but now sitting into this position where it might not even be able to get to use them with it being on solo HP. Annihilate in a weird position again where it's feeling threatened, but it could Terra to not feel threatened, meaning Shenpao is still vulnerable. There's lots of mind games still going on here and lots of switching to be made in the grand scheme of things. One Pokemon was traded for neutering the positioning of another. I think that was a very fair trade of the turn, and there's still plenty of game to be played here.
Yeah, exactly. And Ilim still has the Terra option, so it's hard to say. So let's see what this turn brings. Really, as right now the Chiyu is actually being switched out for that Amoongus, as we do see the Terra on that Annihilate, as the Fluttermane does go for the Protect, meaning this Chimpao can go for an Ice Spinner right into that Amoongus, getting a critical hit and just taking it out, while this Annihilate just going for a Reach Fist into that Protect. Wow, that was quite a turn there. Ice Spinner was, in my opinion, very safe there because if you only run Sucker Punch Sacred Sword, you do not want the Amoongus to be switched in. Chi was still low, so Ice Spinner would have done the job. So very well done there by Phil.
Yeah, that Ice Spinner catch was absolutely spot on. However, it was a little bit unfortunate for Scotty there taking that crit. I know some Amoongus, or quite a lot of Amoongus, have been trained to catch at least cling on in the red from some Shenpao Ice Spinners. So the critical hit there was a little bit unfortunate, but it was fantastic prediction from Phil to take that, getting that, going for that cheeky Rage Fist as well from Annihilate into that Flutter main. If it's taken some damage, getting that little power boost on it, it would go sort of do some nice damage in return. But yeah, no, brilliant playing from Phil.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have to choose if you bring the Chiyu or what I'm thinking is in the back, that Gyarados again. And with Gyarados in the back, you give the Defiant to that Annihilate. But nope, I was wrong. I'll take my words right back, as it is Iron Hands, which is able to go for a fake out. So we just see another double protect there, just not risking it, which is honestly quite smart. Just being able to make sure that nothing really happens. No sashes were broken, no Annihilate getting boosted by Rage Fist either, but still being healthy, which is the important part there.
Yeah, we saw that Iron Hands actually at the beginning of the game as part of the lead and then leaving the field straight away. And it's in an interesting position now where Annihilate went from being not too scared of it to tearing into that water to being threatened by these Volt tackles and potential Volt switches onto the field, to start bouncing it in and out, get that fake out recycled if that's what the Iron Hands wants to do. Annihilate still put down a lot of pressure, but is threatened. Shenpao having its Sash preserved keeps it very threatening itself right now, and we can see what's going on here. And we still don't know what the fourth Pokemon for Phil could be, so that might be caught in a switch.
Exactly. So let's see what is gonna happen now that you did Terra Water. As we do see the Flood Main goes for the Protect. Ice Spinner into that Flood Main, just being protected there. As the Annihilate goes for the Bulk Up, cheeky Bulk Up, just trying to make sure that this Wild Charge does not do as much damage. As the Iron Hands goes for the Dream Punch, well predicted there, putting it on its Sash there. So very nice turn there. Like Annihilate being on +1 attack, +1 defense is also really good for it as well, because just being able to possibly keep setting up, being able to survive anything that this Iron Hands can throw at it. Because unfortunately, but through Wild Charge might be an electric physical move, but it's not a very good electric physical move, because it is only 90 base power compared to like your Flare Blitzes or your Wave Crashes. It is one of those moves that is just a little bit less powerful.
Yeah, it definitely didn't need that recoil strapping onto what it's capable of. However, yeah, definitely picking up that defense is spot on for an Annihilate here. It was good to try and keep that thing alive. And we've seen the beginnings of the next turn coming through here. Chi-Yu coming in for the Iron Hands, looking to probably reset that fake out. Shenpao sticking around. Shenpao getting another critical hit onto Fluttermane, picking up the Oko, which it probably would have survived as we saw in the previous game. And Rage Fist coming through and cleaning up that Chi-Yu. Momentum swinging wildly back in the direction of Phil here for this final few turns.
Oh my god, this Pao wrecking havoc right now. And now you just double protect, and yeah, you really just Rage Fist plus Pao Ice Spinner onto this Iron Hands the next turn. It's really hard to come back from this, but Iron Hands is a bulky Pokemon that has been seen doing a lot. So maybe the Iron Hands is able to get a crit onto this Annihilate, making sure that the Wild Charge is able to kill, because of course Power, his effect is also affecting that Annihilate as well. So let's see what happens in possibly this last turn from this game, as we do see just a forfeit, just trying to make just maybe not revealing too much information, or just not really seeing a way out here. But in all honesty, I can totally get it, because that Pao has been critting quite a bit.
So anyone would think it was carrying Scope Lens instead of its Focus Sash, the amount of crits that it was picking up on vital turns. We have Game 3 available here. Is there any do we think there's any adaptations that need to be made here, or is it more Phil gets more crits and is always happy about that, or are we thinking different plays from different players?
It's interesting. Yeah, I'm a bit flabbergasted, really, by that turn, because I'm trying to still process for a second there, because Ice Spinner was not enough to kill in the first game after an Intimidate, and it was definitely still not in range for an Ice Spinner to kill it anyway, so that Fluttermane would have survived there. So I'm just, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still a bit lost, still processing that credit. That unfortunately did happen there. I'm sorry. What did you ask me? Because I completely forgot.
Coming into Game 3, do we think any of the players need to make any adaptations here? Are we just looking for more critical hits on both sides, a little bit more randomness throwing around there? We didn't get to see what Phil brought in his fourth as well, so there could be adaptation and hidden information playing on that too. So yeah, is there any changes you want to be made from either player?
I don't think mouse hold is really. If you go mouse hold and Annihilate, I want to see a bulk up turn one, just raw bulk up, not even following me with the mouse hold. Just no, I'm trying to think what you could really do differently, because it's really hard for Snow to be brought here. Still, you could. We don't know the set of the Iron Bundle, but it can provide nice support for his Annihilate with possible icy winds if it does have that, of course. But right now we don't know what it has and what it doesn't have, so it's kind of hard to see what will happen. But if it has icy wind, I would bring the Iron Bundle to help the Annihilate, and on the other side, I don't think I'd bring the same I'd bring the same four, but just not get crit.
Yep, not get crit is always a good plan. Going into turn 1 here, we see a rollback to game 1. Chi-Yu Amoonguss coming out for Scotty, and Annihilate and Mousehold once again hitting the field for Phil here, running it for the third way through. Mouseape always having that ability to, for want of a better description, just be the better player, has always got the option with it. Roll those 50-50s, take those dice and see how you're feeling Amoonguss and Chiyu rolling it back. Are we reckoning nasty plots coming out again, or are we seeing a little bit more of an offensive and a sleepy turn one?
Honestly, this is again a 50-50 because if the mouse will just follow Mies, you and your Mungus went for Spore, it's a useless turn for your Mungus. But if that mouse hole went for that beat up, we already know that Mungus can survive, and the Mungus went for Spore onto the Annihilate. That's a really good turn there. So it's kind of tough to see what I tend to do if this mouse hold would have, for example, have Super Fang. I think it's now the time to click Super Fang onto the Mungus and protect the Annihilate turn one, as you then can possibly beat up the Annihilate to just hit the Amoonguss really hard. You kind of ignore the Chi Yu in that regard, but if you have the Iron Bundle on the back, you just Icy Wind it and then just Drain Punch, like the thing. As we do see the Chi
Rolling
Yu
through.
going for the Protect.
Yeah, Chi picking up that protect that and catching the super fangs are really good, and the drain punch. That is a fantastic turn one protect. And we're going for the spore from Amoonguss straight into the Annihilate. That is massive momentum gain for Scotty here.
This that honestly, looking at this, if I would play this on ladder, I think I would have lost already because like this is rough to come back from because that Annihilate has not taken one turn of sleep yet. That can take 3 more turns to sleep to go, and this Mousehold can only support as much as it can. So kind of rough, yeah, very rough to do so. So let's see what we can have here because the Mousehold does have the Super Fang, as we do see the switch out to the Tinglu, lowering the special attack from all the Pokemon around as the Mungus goes for a Rage Powder, as the Chiyu is on the receiving end of that Super Fang, as the Chiyu went for Nasty Plot.
Yeah, Chiyu going for Nasty Plot, getting it semi-free. The safety goggles still coming in very valuable there, avoiding that Rage Powder and getting some damage, some good damage down on the Chiyu. Meaning it doesn't get that boost for free. Tinglu, we see at the beginning of the next game coming in here with its Terra Poison, which I'm not too sure why is coming out here right now, personally.
It's rough to say. I think what you could have done is just another turn of sleep, like waste sleep, but like it's always different when you're, of course, a spectator versus playing because sometimes
Yeah.
there are options that you see that you don't see when you're playing. So rough to say, but we'll see what will happen here as we do see the Tinglu go for that Terra Poison there, as the mouse does go for a Follow Me. And this Chew just goes for a Heat Wave, missing the mouse hold, missing the Tinglu, going for the Stomping Tantrum just on the Amoonguss for a bit of damage. And just that was amazing. And we see a Super Fang and the Reach Powder from this Amoonguss. A bit more damage on the Amoonguss, healing a bit with the Berry. Heat Wave, Mousehold surviving with 1 HP. Tinglu still hanging on as well. And Stomping Tantrum just onto the Amoonguss there as well. So let's talk about the first turn with the Heat Wave miss because, wow.
Oh yeah,
Like
that
these were
heatwave
two
miss was
lucky turns.
absolutely, for sure. That heatwave miss was absolutely gutting for Scotty. But what we see on the second turn is that heatwave connecting actually doesn't drop the mouse hold as one would have predicted it would, especially being in Scotty's position. Keeping it alive on that tiny sliver of HP is Tinglu's Vestal of Ruin. I wonder if that was calculated or if that was a little bit of sheer luck. It could be either. With Tinglu sitting in the field, going for their stomping tantrums into Amoonguss, with thanks to that Rage Powder, it's sticking around, it's doing a little bit of damage, it's keeping its stuff up.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, and Superfan coming in, dropping it. We're getting the berry out of Amoonguss. However, Tinglu also didn't take too much at all from that boosted heatwave. So it is
Yeah,
sticking around quite nicely as well.
exactly. That is also thanks to that friend guard from the mousehold. So the Tinglu and the mousehold helping each other there, like the buddies that they are, the mouse and the cow. I just imagine the mousehold family just staying safe inside of the bowl of the Tinglu.
That
But
is
now
exactly what
because
I was about to say. If you didn't, I was
exactly.
imagining it. I need an artist to draw me this.
And now that with the free turn of the heat wave miss, meaning that the Tinglu has the option of going for another stomping tantrum and is able to KO either the Chiyu or the Amoonguss at this point, which is a very nice position to be in, really. So just buying a bit more of that time back that from that turn one sleep on the Annihilate, of course.
Yeah, it did leave the field though, so it still has sleep turns to be taken. However, running into this next turn, we'll see where the Stomping Tantrum goes. Assuming it does go for the Stomping Tantrum, Mousehole going for the Protect here, keeping itself alive once more. Heatwave coming in, putting another chunk into Tinglu, not getting a burn. Stomping Tantrum going into Chiyu, taking that KO, but Amoonguss being left on the field to get a Spore and sporing Tinglu. That's two Pokemon on the side of Phil now asleep.
Yeah, that's not really what you'd like to see. But we do have the option, well, a funny option really to see, because Mousehole Tinglu with the Terra Poison is actually kind of funny because now if the Fluttermane, for example, would switch in, if the Fluttermane wanted to go for Moonblast, yeah, it doesn't do that much to Tinglu. We'll have to go for one turn to the Mousehole. But if it went for Shadow Ball and Mousehole went for a Follow Me, for example, that wouldn't affect it. And then turn one, really. So this Tinglu will certainly get at least one turn of sleep off. So it will depend on the turn one wake up, possibly there in that regard.
Yeah, it's not taking. To fact, it's not taking its permanent turn of sleep. So we've got a couple of turns to follow through here yet. But Mousehole is threatened. Tinglu is threatened. We'll all see what's coming in from the back from Scotty very quickly, and it is that Fluttermane we were fearing. Tinglu not looking terribly well, looking fairly okay with that Terra Poison sitting in front of it. Mousehole, on the other hand, losing its final HP to the Dazzling Gleam, and Tinglu now sitting favorably through that first turn of sleep. Shempao
Oh
coming
no.
in the mouse's place, and the
And now
gambles start once more.
Yeah, she powers back, but the Ice Spitter does manage to just take out it. As the Hex doesn't take out the Tinglu. Tinglu waking up, being able to go for the Heavy Slam. Turn one wake up. As I said, that could happen. And that'll just leaves the Gyarados. That's wow, that's incredible. What a turn to
Oh,
come back from.
that is absolutely clutch from looking from the. This is quite literally victory from the jaws of defeat there with that single turn sleep and Shempao putting in that big damage, picking up that KO there. It could have gone either way and what it wanted to do if it wanted to try and pick up that cheeky crit again. Interesting to see the Hex coming out from Fluttermane here, doing more damage than the oh Christ, Shadow Ball would have done. Then the Shadow Ball would have done in that traditional slot, since obviously normally Fluttermanes are carrying Shadow Ball. Hex doubling its power on that status conditioned Tinglu, and just unfortunately missing out on that KO there, so that damage boost not being quite enough.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to see that Tinglu even surviving that. Is just one of those Pokemon that just shows every time and time again it can take so many hits. And now with Gyarados on the field, just being able to intimidate at least one of these Pokemon, you still have that Annihilate in the back, and that Annihilate is being able to be switched in, for example, for the Ching Pao, and to just not have a attack reduce. Like, so it's looking kind of rough for Scotty right now.
Yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate turn of events for Scotty. I think they've hit some unfortunate luck coming through both of these sets. However, we've got one or two turns left to play to see what's going to come through here. Chempo actually leaving in favor of Annihilate here. Waterfall going in and picking up the KO on Tinglu's final HP. So Annihilate coming in, staying asleep. Chempo coming through. Sword of Ruin coming down, dropping those defenses once more. Going for the Protect, trying to get that extra turn of sleep out of Annihilate. Annihilate taking its first guaranteed turn of sleep, having not taken one yet. And Thunderwave coming in to hit Chempo there, dodging the Sucker Punch.
Yeah, and now the Ice Spinner doing quite a bit of damage. As in, it's just able to go for a bulk up. Even when this Gyarados is able to go, as we see, a Taunt is actually slower than the Annihilate, unfortunately. And yeah, as they said in the as we see, that is the game has decided to forfeit here. This is a position that you really not really have a way to come back from, except for Thunderwave, Para, everything, and then get 24 Paras from each Pokemon for the next 24 turns, which is kind of hard to do.
Yeah, well, it's technically not impossible. It is statistically very improbable, and we. While it somewhat would have been justified given some of the crits and some of those turn one sleeps from Phil, I still think both players played very well there to adapt to the situations played in front of them. And at the end of the day, when you get luck, you take luck. You need to accept that. I think a lot of players in Pokemon do forget that there is an element of luck in the game. It feels bad to be on the receiving end of it, but we need to be able to take that luck when we are, well, forget air quotes. But as the player receiving the look, we need to not feel bad for getting it, accept that it's happened, and take our favorable positionings throughout the rest of an event.
Yeah, exactly. It is always one of those things because, yeah, if we're looking at, for example, the Gyarados, you are playing Thunder Wave. Yes, it gives you speed control, but there's another factor that why you play Thunder Wave, because it has a chance to paralyze, have that little bit of luck factor to make sure that you are able to really use that as well. So yeah, luck is always involved. Unfortunately, it was ah it was a very well played game by Scotty there, but unfortunately, it's just the way Pokemon just look at you funny, and they're just like, you know what? No, I'm gonna survive this one hit. There, you're never gonna see this coming, because surviving that hex was spectacular to say the least. Because yeah, Assault Vest Tinglu can take a lot of hits, but seeing it take still that hex while it's asleep at such a low percent just makes me think, oh my lord, Ting Lu.
Ting Lu is very much like the Homer from one of those episodes of the classic episodes of The Simpsons where he wins boxing matches just by
By
getting
standing
beaten
there.
up and beaten up and beaten up and beaten up and still standing, and eventually is the last thing standing on the field.
My god, and they're so tired, so Fisher.
Yeah.
No, that's an amazing analogy. I love that actually. It is just evil. Yeah, that is what Tinglu is like, and I have seen a lot of development around Tinglu. Like, it is still a bulky Pokemon to be there, but you've also have the choice. As I said earlier, you have the choice band sets, and so which can be quite threatening as well. But yeah,
Yeah,
the good old
I think
Assault
it's one
Fest
of the
sets just
hmm.
putting in the work,
I think
man.
it's one of those Pokemon as well that's very interesting. I think it's the first time in a long time we've seen one Pokemon outside of maybe Dragonite, especially in the current formats, that's capable of filling so many different roles and doing so many different things and doing all of them exceptionally. Like you've got the band sets which are doing the high damage, sometimes even fast with Tailwind supporting them. I've seen a
Yep.
couple of. You've got the control sets with the sort of the assault vest, the being bulky, the snarl. You've got the if in doubt fissure
Yeah.
approach. But you've also got some of those
Yeah.
other field control sets with the whirlwinds, the entry hazards, the snarls.
Yeah,
It just
exactly.
it does everything that a team
It
needs it to
it
do, and it
has a
can plug
lot. It
that
has a
gap.
lot of options just by being there. Like, yeah, it's one of those things. As we do have our next matchup as well, we've got Stefano versus Ano, which looks to be a quite interesting match as well, because one of my new favorite addition of this generation is in the team as well, which is that Farigiraf, which I personally really enjoy. Like, just looking at, honestly, I love the design. Like, he's just wearing a hoodie, man. uh,
Oh, I can't unsee the hoodie now. I love the photograph as well. I'm very biased. I used it quite a lot in series 1 and 2. It's been a shame to see it drop off in season 3, but with all these powerful dark types running around, it's entirely understandable. But it's really interesting to see it coming out here.
exactly. And next to like the Farigiraf, of course, not being the sole Pokemon on the team, we have the Fluttermane, the Palafin, the Chiyu, and Teglu back again, as we do have Excalibur. These are all like very threatening Pokemon that have uh, done their roles fantastically. And it's quite interesting to see a Farigiraf really, because most of the time you see Farigiraf in like Trick Room teams, or like well, in this instance it will probably be the main priority blocker, really, thanks to
Yeah,
its ability.
priority
uh
blocking.
yeah, thanks to the Iron
Um,
Tail ability, of course.
yeah, priority blocking with Iron Tail and Iron Tail. It's something tail, whatever it is. Yeah, and it's also gonna. I say having that trick room option does give them that little bit of speed control available to it, especially seeing like the Tinglu, and potentially you could run a slower Excalibur and a slower Chiyu and turn that field positioning around. On the other side of the field, we also have some interesting teams coming out from Arno. We've got sort of the Shempao Mousehold without its ape friend, a Fluttermane, a Talonflame, a Meowscarada, which we haven't seen for a little while, which is nice and exciting, and the Sandy Sharks, but
Yeah, the
also missing
Sandy
its
Shocks.
Espathra.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. No Spatra with this Sandy Shocks. Sandy Shocks is being one of those Pokemon that I really like, but for some reason I cannot make it work when I play it. Whenever my opponent has it, it is the most scary Pokemon ever. But whenever I have it in my hands, it's just sticks and stones, really, compared to these godlike Pokemons that are onto the field as well. And Team Power next to Mousehold is interesting because I hope this is an offensive Mousehold with the population
Oh,
bomb.
that
Because
population bomb next to that Sword of Ruin will be able to take pretty much any KO it fancies, and it'll be a nice change to see a Mousehold returning back to the Series One style, drop pop bomb and just detonate something whenever you feel like it. So I'm definitely excited to see what can come out of here. And turn one will be interesting. Coming onto the field, we see for Arno, we've got the Talonflame and the Fluttermane looking to establish that's potential speed control. Fluttermane again, Spider-Man memeing, and Chi-Yu coming out to join it on the field.
exactly. So yeah, Talonflame, of course, having that possibility to put up any sort of tailwind. But on the other hand, you do have that option of Fluttermane versus Fluttermane is always interesting because if they shadow ball each other, they KO each other. That's pretty standard to see. But if they Terra Fairy, depending on the set what you have, it can be a roll or just not a KO at all. But now we have the Chi-Yu as well onto the field, which lowers Spadef. So this is very interesting to see what will happen here. The Chi-Yu could be switched in, for example, for Tinglu, making sure the Fluttermane does manage to survive. As we actually see the Fluttermane go for the protect, as the Talonflame does go for the Tailwind, setting up that Tailwind, just boosting the speed, and the Dazzling Gleam doing quite a bit of damage as the Heat Wave coming out into the Fluttermane, and Talonflame doing quite a bit of damage as well.
Yeah, that Dazzling Gleam there doing a lot of damage, and obviously Chi-Yu not affected by its own abilities, so I'd be inclined to say that the opposing Fluttermane is Specs, or at least Chi-Yu is very fragile. Tailwind coming out for the Talonflame on Arno's side puts it in a very good speed control position, and it feels like the Fluttermane on our side of the field for Stefano is um, feeling a lot more threatened. It's showing Protect, so it isn't, we know it's not choice locked into something. However, it is now threatened by the speed control. Talonflame has lost its priority with taking that chip damage, but yeah, I think it's a tricky situation to play through.
It's still threatening because Brave Bird's still hurt. Like that is the bravest of birds, man. It's not a thing you'd like to encounter there. So seeing what will happen in this turn, the Dazzling Gleam was a really good play there. Just chipping this Chew so much as well, making me actually believe like this is a very offensive sort of more offensive sort of Fluttermane, or might even be a Specs Fluttermane really. So it is very interesting to see what will happen in this next turn. As of course the Floodbane has no option of protecting again, but you can possibly switch something in, as we do see the Chi-Yu this time around going for protect, as the Braver comes out, does quite a bit of damage, but manages to hang on as the Floodbane is just able to go for a Dazzling Gleam, picking up the kill onto the Floodbane, leaving his Chi-Yu for a bit alone for half a turn, as the Baxcalibur does come in here. And there's still 2 turns of Tailwind on the field.
Yeah, it's very dominating for Arno, dominating position overall. I'm feeling like Excalibur is going to see a Terra type here because it does not want to catch any of those fairy moves. Chi-Yu is being detrimental to its partner now having the its own special defense dropped and fearing Fluttermane. Talonflame could just put more Brave Bird in, and generally speaking, yeah, it feels like without a good and well-timed Terra move for that Terra type for that Baxcalibur, I think we could be seeing a fairly one-sided game coming through. There's like 2 turns left of this Tailwind.
Exactly. It's looking quite hard here. Baxcalibur is able to go for a protect now to stall out one more turn of Tailwind, but like it's still rough, man, because Baxcalibur is still slower even when outside of that Tailwind. So let's see what this turn will bring. As we do see the Chi actually switch out for the Tinglu, lowering the special attack from all Pokemon, as the Baxcalibur is able to go for a Terra Poison with the Ashar, being able to kill Talonflame, which is very nice. And the Dazzling Gleam does quite a bit of damage to Tinglu. And
Yeah, Tinglu taking a lot of damage there, but sticking around with an 52% reading. It's probably going to stay around again. Dazzling Gleam coming out once more from there, putting another tiny little bit of damage onto Excalibur. Icicle Crush aiming for that flutter main, but that miss is immensely unfortunate for regaining that momentum.
Yeah, Miaskarada coming in, threatening honestly that Tinglu just with a flower trick. Tinglu just going for protect, just trying to scout that out there. So just matching their protects as the Excalibur could have gotten a KO there onto the Fluttermane, because this Fluttermane is definitely specs seeing the damage has been dealing. So very unfortunate, really, to say the least. At least the tailwind is over, but the Fluttermane and the Miaskarada are two still very fast things onto the field as well.
Yeah, the speed control is definitely in Arno's favour. The game is definitely not over. There's a couple of turns left being Terra Poison. He's going to keep Excalibur alive a lot longer, and it does actually threaten the O codes on both sides of the field, ignoring a potential sash on Meowscarada. So we can see where it's going to put its attacks following through here. As Flower Trick does come out and finish off Tinglu, taking that Vessel Rune away, letting Fluttermane power up a bit more, as we see do a lot more damage into that Terra Poison. Icicle Crush coming through and dropping Meowscarada to its sash.
Yeah, now you have that Chiyu like back again, so lowering the special defense of all Pokemon. Meaning this Excalibur will take this bit harder now as the Ice Shard goes into protect from the Ascarada. Dazzling Gleam coming out doing 27%. Excalibur still barely hanging on, but now you're in a position where Dazzling Gleam just takes out both of these Pokemon, and Fluttermane just being showcasing why it is one of the most used Pokemon still to this day, because it is fast, it is strong, and it has a fairy typing.
Yes, it definitely has one of those perfect offensive typings. I think there was potential there for the Ice Shard to be the protect onto the Masquerada. There was a relatively predictable play, knowing the Ice Shard is going through. So there could have been a way of putting the Ice Shard into Fluttermane and be good scouting to work out what kind of damage limitations you're working with in that scenario, should it have lived, or even picked up the KO. Fluttermane not known for being physically defensive here. We've got maybe 1 or 2 turns left of this game here, so we'll see how this finishes up. We see the Sucker Punch coming out from Masquerada there, denying Excalibur the chance to even go for its Ice Shard, and Dazzling Gleam coming up and cleaning up our Goldfish.
Exactly. So, yeah, unfortunately, going down that tailwind, really showcasing why it's such an important thing to have that speed behind your team a lot of the times. Because, yeah, speed wins you games, because sometimes you're just that much faster, being able to take that much faster KO. So, I don't know really what you would switch up, because Farigiraf can block a lot of priority, but it can't block tailwind, unfortunately. It cannot block the wind.
Yeah, sadly, being like over 500 speed isn't considered priority, so you do not get to get that defensive bonus there. The there's just full on raw aggression coming out from Arno there, and it's whether Stefan can turn around their defensive core and slow this game down back to the pace they want to be playing through, or bring up the pace themselves and try and compete with that speed and increase their own priority usage through the potential jet punches from Palafin, the ice shards from Excalibur, and then using their own Flutter Mane to sort of later on when that tailwinds drop down to reestablish a little bit of control.
Exactly. So let's see what this next game will bring. If the adaptation, as we do see the Farigiraf, let's go, and the Excalibur right next to it. Excalibur, of course, being able to threaten quite a bit, as we do see the Chim Pao Mousehold, and suddenly this is not looking good. If that Mousehold is Population Bomb, this will not go great, because that
Yeah,
is
there's a
quite
lot of
scary to face off against.
I think Mousehold out ignoring a potential Terra Ghost is one of the most threatening Pokemon for Farigiraf to be trying to stare down, because all of its stuff outside of the feint that the odd one has carried from here and there isn't priority. It's got redirection, which does upset Farigiraf a little bit, but it can also be carrying that taunt, which does stop the Trick Room going up. It's got, they say, with the potential here, it's got the very aggressive Population Bomb, which will just OHKO Farigiraf no matter how defensive it's been invested.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Excalibur as well is also fearing that. So there's definitely some mind games to be played.
Yeah, this is interesting to see what's gonna happen in this game. As the Excalibur does go for the protect, just trying to make stay safe. As Farigiraf does go for the protect as well, as we do see the population buff from the Mousehold, meaning We know what the targets are, just doubling in onto the Farigiraf, not wanting to deal that, as now the target has changed because the possibility of Floodmane could switch in, but Population Bomb going into the back's caliber isn't enough with a critical hit added on top. It is not enough. It
Oh,
survives on
Baxcalibur
6
surviving.
HP.
Yeah, Baxcalibur surviving there was absolutely critical, going for that Glaive Rush and returning the Oko there, but for Rigoraf sadly not getting to move as Throat Chop. Oh, like, there is a big throat to be chopped on that giraffe, and it does take the 100 KO.
Exactly. That Mousehold had to go down because yeah, if you're dealing with a bit of slower team there, it is kind of hard to deal with. Now you luckily that Baxcalibur was able to survive, even though there was a critical hit there. But lucky for that Baxcalibur
Yeah,
to be able to hang on
that
there.
in, that has me very inclined to say that is a very bulky Baxcalibur because I think with Sword of Ruin, either that or population, it's the Mousehold isn't as invested as I think. With Sword of Ruin in play, I feel like that population bomb will be picking up KOs on most threats where possible. So having Baxcalibur, including that crit, just stick around them. There's little damage rolls on each independent one where everything could have added up and changed just ever so
Yep.
slightly. But yeah, that's a very bulky Baxcalibur with its Glaive
As
Rush damage buff now sitting on it.
All right, and now the Miascarada and Tinglu coming in. Tinglu not really liking these two Pokemon in front of it, as Miascarada can hit it quite hard, as we do see the Sucker Punch from Chimpao into the Baxcalibur, just making sure that that is dealt with as the Tinglu just protected onto that. Now we have Chiyu and Tinglu canceling out each other a bit, so unfortunate for that in that regard, as Chimpao does go for the Terra, uh, does go for the Terra Poison, as the Tinglu goes for Terra Water, as Flower Trick does quite a bit of damage to Tinglu, Ice Spinner as well, but it's managed to hang on, as we do see the Heat Wave onto Chimpao and Miascarada, putting it on its sash on the Miascarada side, as the Chimpao is still being able to survive there. So meaning this
Yeah.
Tinglu still has to go for a move shortly, but Tinglu going for that Terra was an incredibly smart decision there. Even like Flower Trick with that sort of rune still being able to hang on. Tinglu, Jesus Christ, that's amazing. That's amazingly bulky.
Yeah, that is absolutely a very bulky Tinglu. The other thing to note is we saw Champao go for a Terra Poison there, so it's actually taking these heat waves going from probably one hit KOs, dropping it like actually taking that hit really well. Miasquerade obviously dropping to its sash as well.
Yeah, exactly. It is the part like Chimpao looking to be rather bulky, maybe a bit bulkier set. Could be that the Tinglu also dropping the special attack, of course, of Chiyu does help a bit, but let's see what happens there in that regard, because it is, of course, one of those things where you don't really know what happens, as we do that heavy slam into the Miascarada, just trying to deal with the threat there, which was definitely the Miascarada in that regard, as the Fluttermane comes in. Fluttermane just going for a Dazzling Gleam, doing quite a bit of damage to both these Pokemon. And Chibao just doubling up onto the Throat Chop as a Chew goes for a Heat Wave. No longer Tinglu onto the field, meaning this Heat Wave will do a bit more. As we do know, this Fluttermane is specs, and the next Dazzling Gleam does manage to kill it, because it is, of course, single target there.
Yeah, single target damage, finishing it off. Fluttermane and Champao being able to clean up that game. That Ting Lu was very bulky and putting a lot of potential threatening damage by sticking around, but with sort of having Chi by its side, their abilities countering each other out on the offensive defensive shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
There's more maths there that I'm willing to sit and work out personally. But what we see, we're seeing here is that Arno has just picked up two very convincing wins through just very fast, very powerful, very aggressive play, and it's just paying off wildly. It's been I like seeing aggression. I like seeing aggressive teams in play. It keeps things very exciting, and I like seeing all this pressure.
It
But
was an
I'm
excellent
biased.
adaptation as well from game one, just bringing the mouse hole, just making sure that it is able to go for as much damage as possible as well. Uh, with that population bomb, going for their each somewhat bulkier Pokemon so that the Brave Birds couldn't be spammed with the Talonflame if you didn't damage that. So excellently played. I can't say there's no other way to say this, really. So But for now, we will be taking a short break. We'll be right back with some more matches, but we do have to set up a few things there. But stick around because we will be back soon and with more matches. And you know they are good because we already have seen some great goodiness already. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here with UKITT Season 5. I'm Shmon, and I'm joined here with Valquesse, and we are going back into these games. We have one more showdown game to go, but then we have some games on the cartridge, which are very nice to watch, but don't get me wrong, I really like these showdown games as well. Are you thinking about the matches still so far?
They've been very exciting to see, and I'm very happy to have seen. We've seen a lot of Obama snow coming out. Snow is always fun. I've always been biased towards it. I've always wanted it to work, and it's really happy to see that it is coming through now. And looking at the teams we've got on display for us for our next match, we do see another Obama snow available to us, which is very exciting.
Yeah, exactly. Abomasnow, one of those Pokemon that I really wanted to try, uh, really use in this meta, because that's the first thing that I said to myself as well. Going to Gen 8, I'm gonna make a snow. I want to make snow team. I want to make snow work because I remember I was watching some old VGC content in Gen 4 where people were using Trick Room and Bomber Snow, and it really working well. So I really looking forward to that as well. So let's almost jump into the game after we've seen the next team, which does have an iron bundle as well. This time, no snow support, but we do have Chiyu, Fluttermane, Talonflame, and of course the eternal team combo that is Dozo and Tatsugiri.
Yeah, they're speaking of unmatched pairings. There may be snow on one side, but things that do like being put in the freezer is a big fish. Um, yeah, this match we have ahead of us is Arc 11 and Nido Rich, and I think it might be time for us to drop straight into some turns.
Exactly. Yes, we do see the Iron Bundle from the snow side of things coming out together with the Corviknight, as we do see the Talonflame on the other side with the Chiyu this time. We do already know that Talonflame has that possibility of that priority, as we do see the booster energy from the Iron Bundle and the instant Terra Water from Chiyu with that Tailwind, as well as the Heat Wave coming out. Critical hit onto the Corviknight, doing quite a bit of damage to the Iron Bundle, and lowering the speed with the Ice Wind, but that Corviknight just being gone instantly is quite
Yeah,
amazing.
it's definitely a lot of that. That was a lot of damage, and I imagine a little bit gutting for Arc take losing their Corviknight as early as turn one. It's was that a critical hit? Did we see it was? It did see it was a critical hit, so it'll be interesting to see if that Corviknight was EV trained to take a standard heat wave, which we might see in game 2 and 3, and might not based on adaptations. However, we see Great Tusk coming into its place, and I think Great Tusk is a really good adaptation here, applying a lot of threat onto Talonflame, and Chiyu not known for its bulk, and Great Tusk hitting like a goddamn freight train when it feels like it. Would still, even with its Terra Water, take a lot of damage. But with Terra Water being in play, there is always that little chance for it to have the Terra Blast, which will upset Great Tusk a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Great Task not having the best of special defense, together with Iron Man also not having the best of special defense. Not really looking forward to taking hits from this Chiyu, either of them. But let's see what this turn will come out, as the Chiyu just does go for the protect, trying to scatter what will happen, as the Iron Bundle is going for that freeze right now that it is possibly faster. But the Will-O-Wisp from Talonflame into that Great Tusk, while the Rock Slide coming down onto that Talonflame, barely surviving thanks to that Will-O-Wisp there, and taking a bit of damage thanks to that burn.
Yeah, getting that Will-O-Wisp onto the Great Tusk is absolutely critical there. This was a line of play that I personally didn't anticipate, but it was very vital to get that burn. And Great Tusk is going to feel a lot more neutered throughout going through the rest of rest of this match. And Talonflame living that Rock Slide after taking the burn is interesting, because normally, though, 4 times weakness, even so, a lot of the time, even at half attack, you'd expect something like Talonflame that isn't known for its defenses to drop. Um, and it puts the Talonflame in an interesting position where it was kind of, I imagine it was kind of hoping to get out of the board so that that Rich could play more aggressive with something else in the back, taking that slot. So Talonflame living here could actually be a little bit of a negative, but it is still applying pressure onto the field. Be interesting to see where the rest of these following turns go.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
As we do see the Talonflame switching out to the Dondozo this time, and the Tatsugiri instantly switching out. So meaning this, if this Iron Bundle went for another freeze dry into that Shiyu slot, is gonna miss. As it does go for the Ice Wind, lowering the speed from this Dondozo, just trying to make sure that it is a bit slower as the Rock Slide comes out. And if you keep lowering that Dondozo speed, you might be able to get some nice Rock Slide flinches as well. Eventually with that Great Tusk, as we do see a freeze dry from the Iron Bundle this time onto Dondozo, not doing that much, but quite enough. As the rock slide does go into Dondozo, and it does flinch. It is commentator's curse. Really should not have said it, but it did happen as the Tailwind does pewter out. Another freeze dry into that Dondozo, doing quite a bit of damage. Rock slide yet again, not missing. Let's see if this flinches again. It does not, as the Earthquake does come out and manages to kill the Iron Bundle as well.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff to be said when you're up against something like a Dondozo, which is incredibly difficult to take knockouts on, but you have access to freeze dry, you got access to this rock slide, you can always play for those outs of flinches and freezes. And when you are not doing much damage, it does flinch. You get all these extra opportunities to pile on these little luck chances to come through and stop Dondozo acting while its stats might be boosted. If it can't move, which still can't do anything. The other thing that's interesting to note here is that Tatsugiri isn't the traditional um, offensive boosting one, being the pink one instead of the orange. So it'd be curious to see what Rich has planned for these boosts from a order up. Should order up even be on the set?
Yeah, exactly. And now with Great Tusk still being that Scarf variant because we saw that it was outspeeding still. And the last Pokemon being the Abomasnow, having to do quite a bit of work because there's still that Chi-Yu and that Talonflame in the back as we do see the Rock Slide coming out again. Trying to flinch that Dondozo yet again. You can try, you need to try as we see the Bomasu just energy balling, trying to deal as much damage to Dondozo as possible, as well as we see another rock slide. Just gotta keep going, gotta keep going. Wave crash into the Great Tusk, unfortunately not flinching, so that means a kill, meaning this Abomasnow is the only thing on the field left as the energy ball is able to kill the Dondozo, but it's this Abomasnow, which is Life Orb apparently as well, versus three other quite strong Pokemon. So quite scary to see.
Three quite strong Pokemon, and one of those is a Chi-Yu with Fire type staring down a Abomasnow. It's not looking terribly happy. Abomasnow still could potentially pull through. It's got types in places it needs to, but staring down three Pokemon is definitely a risky position to be in. There was a couple of misfortunate things going on. Well, not misfortunate, distinct lack of flinches, which is if they were going for, that's what needs to happen. But seeing the wave crash go in there rather than some of the other attacks, which I think would have dropped some KO reps, things into the Great Tusk into KO range anyway, put that recoil in and took from would have been interesting to see the damage roll on that energy ball to see where it works out prior knowing its life orb. Um, to
Yep.
definitely in KO range.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's solely this Bombos no really not liking any fire type moves coming from this Tatsugiri as the Bombos just goes for a protect, as does the Chiyu, as the Tatsugiri just goes for a Draco Meteor, which is of course boosted thanks to this Chiyu, lowering the special defense of all Pokemon as the Bombos does go for Terra Water. And Draco Meteor not taking the kill, but oh, it was darn close as this Dark Pulse does manage to kill the Abomasnow.
Yeah, clinging on with a little bit there. It's good knowledge for later on that even under a Chi-Yu defense dropping thingy of ruin, that you could still take that Tatsugiri's Draco Meteor is a very good knowledge for later games. Should this situation come through, then it's a comfortable win for Rich there. With all of the speed setup, the dozo setup, there's just so much setup going on. But it'll be interesting to see how that first turn crit onto that Corviknight would have changed that game output a little bit more.
Exactly. Corviknight could have just as well survived it. In like possible, could have possibly survived it. Of course, we do not know the spreads or the calcs, but we will be able to see what will happen in this next game. Now, really, what kind of adaptation will be done here? As we do see the Corviknight back again, trying to get its revenge here, really, together with the Great Tusk, as the Talonflame is also back together with that Chiyu, as we have seen the scary combo that is Tailwind Heatwave, as the Chiyu does go for that Terra Water yet again, as the Corviknight does go for that Terra Fire, not wanting to deal with any sort of Heatwave, as the Heatwave does critical hit on the Greatas. The left slot is just not safe anymore. And the tailwind from the Corviknight just trying to match what this Talonflame is doing as well. Not really a great turn there again for Snow, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate seeing the Chi picking up another critical hit in an important turn on an important Pokemon that was at full HP and getting that OK, preventing it from acting. This is two sets in a row where we've seen these ruined Pokemon picking up fortunate critical hits. But Corviknight going Terrafire, not wanting to relive that situation itself, and getting that Tailwind up means we're now back at speed parity. So there's still a chance for whatever Arc has in the back to pull this back through in return.
Yeah, exactly. So it is quite interesting to see. We do see the Iron Bundle, which has the Quark Drive, which means it will be quite a bit faster. But Talonflame still has that priority Brave Bird as it does go for the Freeze Ray onto the Talonflame, not KOing it, as a Heat Wave does manage to KO the Iron Bundle yet again. So this Chi-Yu in Tailwind really threatening everything as the Brave Bird goes into the Talonflame, getting a cheeky little critical hit there, but not really mattering, I feel, there.
Yeah, potentially not quite there. Going to the Freeze Dry into the Talonflame, I understand where it was going for that play there. Looking for the rest of the stuff. However, for the rest of that game, we see a turn 3 forfeit coming there for Arc. I think they were unhappy with their game turn 1 and 2, especially after those crits on game 1 and the turn 1 of game 2. It can be a little bit morale breaking, so I understand where that's coming from. I think there's still there could have been games to be played, especially if those crits didn't come through. But yeah, I think that's just a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, it's something because like those crits can matter, but on the other hand, they can also not matter depending on the spread. Because Chi-Yu, don't get me wrong, it can definitely matter because luck can always happen. But yeah, the Corviknight was hit super effectively, and on the other hand, we have the Great Tusk, which is a Pokemon that doesn't have that great special defense. It is not super effectively, but it might still damage it quite a bit. And yeah, it's hard to say really if the critical hits were that detrimental that they were just straight up the game decided. It is, of course, very unfortunate that it happened because if the Pokemon was able to survive, was able to do anything really, they could have probably just proved and showcased that they could have done something back, so to say.
Yeah, there's always chance for things to turn around, and it's just unfortunate. But chances are chances. There's always something that can go on. This is Pokemon at the end of the day. However, I think we might be ready for some stuff to go through.
Yep.
We've got some cart games lined up for the last two games. I believe it's two games to come on cart.
Yes, exactly. It is Jack White versus Jack Marshall. It's fight of the Jacks uh, right now
Determine
as
the Alpha Jack.
the Alpha Jack. who is the Alpha Jack? Who is the Jack in the box? Let's take a look here what they have for their teams, as we do see a rather Palafins like on the on the left side, Jack. I should not be Ice Salad's team. A little bit more of a Palance team, which is quite popular, and we do see a choice band Tinglu there instead of the more commonly used like leftovers or Solfest, but showcasing that Tinglu can be quite strong offensively. Palafin, of course, strong water type with its hero form, Arcanine for the Intimidates, Amoonguss for redirections, and Spore, Fluttermane because, yeah, it's a Fluttermane, it's strong, it's fast, it does what it does. Tinglu for in case your opponent has too many special attackers you want them to slow down or doesn't really have a lot of good Earthquake switches. And then the Iron Hand for support and overall just bulk and, yeah, good stabs, really.
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there. On the other side of the field from Joshua, we've got some extra icy spice coming through with we saw another
King,
Abomasnow Iron Bundle team.
We saw King Gambit, Dragonite, Abomasnow, Great Tusk, the Iron Bundle, and the Fluttermane there. So yeah, being able to use Hail there, and of course, again, that Great Tusk. Because we have seen this team earlier in our first game that we commentated, which is a Specs, which is probably the team might be changed, which is a Specs Iron Bundle together with this Abomasnow as well, as we do see the Arcanine with the Intimidate and the Snow Warning from the Abomasnow. And then lastly, we see the Vessel of Ruin, of course, activate no boosted energies on this field whatsoever.
Yeah, some interesting opening plays here. Arcanine's sitting in a position where it is both very happy and very sad to be sat in front of an Iron Bundle and a Bomber Snow. It's terrified of that Hydro Pump coming out from it, and even a Bomber Snow with its Terra changing isn't the most threatened thing in the world, but it could be. We don't know. There's a lot of bit of mind games going on there, and Tinglu putting up bulk again, scared of both of these ice types in front of it, but it is reducing that all these special attacks coming out here. We've got 10 seconds left on this timer, and how is the Jack, which Jack, a Jack, going to play this turn?
That's on the left side we have I sell it. On the other side it was no, I forgot.
I think
No, we'll call
Joshua is
I,
carrying the ice team.
yeah, exactly. As we do see the Terra Water on this Abomas to activate right now, just making sure that it doesn't get hit by any super effective fire or maybe a possible heavy slam there, as the Arcanine does go for a protect. Just making sure that it is safe for any possible hydro pumps as well, as it's just a blizzard coming out, doing quite a bit of gonna do quite a bit of damage to this Tinglu, because as said earlier, this is probably a spec set as the Aurora Veil comes up, making sure that this Tinglu, even though its choice banner, will do a lot less damage as well. The opponent is Jarshell apparently as well, and the Stomping Tantrum does a bit to the Iron Bundle because Aurora Veil and the Iron Bundle has respectable defenses as well.
Yeah, that Iron Bundle took that attack under the Aura Veil really comfortably and put a big dent back into Tinglu, even given the Vessel Ruin drops. We see the Terra Water for Bomber Snow keeping it nice and safe for pretty much everything that can be thrown at it now. And Arcanine could be a little bit more scared. Again, it's not too scared of a Bomber Snow here, but it can't really do anything to it in return. And similarly, we're now into the next turn, so we shall continue through.
Exactly, as we do see the Iron Hands coming out as well here, just switching in for the Tinglu, just taking this Blizzard quite nicely thanks to that Assault Fest, as the Arcanine does go for a Flare Blitz, not doing that much damage at all thanks to that Aurora Veil Snow Boost, and of course it is part Water type, so being neutral as the Blizzard comes out from the Abound Snow as well, doing quite a bit of damage. This Arcanine is suddenly at half HP, even though it got hit by 2 Blizzards. It should be a Fire type. Did it change?
I mean, if it does change, as we can see a little bit from our preview as the player perspective, it's Terra Grass, and it definitely does not want to be changing its type into this. But yeah, no, definitely doing a lot of damage there. The Specs Blizzard and the Abomasnow Blizzard coming out. Iron Hand's also taking a lot of damage on that switch in there, but those show that it lives in the green. There is a high chance that it can stick around for one more turn, even in the face of double Blizzards. And probably showing it's the Assault Vest as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to see as the Arcanine does return back to its trainer, of course, which is Isalad. And we see the Tinglu lowering the special attack a bit again. So this Iron Hands might be able to take this Blizzard a bit nicer for one at least, which is the Choice Specs one, which is, in my opinion, the opponent one to survive, as the Blizzard from the Abomasnow comes out as well, hanging on by 7 HP as the Wild Charge comes out into the Iron Metal and does manage to pick up the kill. Super effective through the terrain, to the Aurora Veil and the snow. Still being able to kill that was quite important to do, because those Blizzards were hecka strong, and the Iron Hands does go down because of that residual damage.
Yeah, picking up that, being able to live there on that 7 HP before going through and dying to the recoil, but taking out Iron Bundle in the process was incredibly valuable. There's still a lot of special spied pressure coming out from Jarshall's ice team, and a lot of speed coming through in that Flutter Mane entering the field. Abomasnow is causing problems, and this is the dominance we like to see from ice.
Exactly. Like, it is quite threatening to see, because now Flutter Mane still being there. Just being able to Shadow Ball really the Arcanine at low HP, or even the opposing Flutter Mane. We do see the Protosynthesis activate thanks to that booster energy, raising the special attack, which is quite nice to have. But this is a full HP Abomasnow. It is behind Aurora Veil still. And even though Snow doesn't give a special defense boost, this Abomasnow has a lot of HP, and it is quite hard to deal with. So honestly, looking at this, it's looking like a very hard way to come back from this, because your Arcanine being this low is something that you'd like not to see. especially when you have a Abomasnow that now somehow turned into a water type, really. As we do see
Yeah.
the terrestrialization activate there on iSalad's side.
Yeah, Terra type coming out from ISL. We've got the Terra Fairy coming out onto our green Flutter main here, preparing to put down a lot of damage, or as best as it can, to try and break through that Aurora Arcanine protecting, keeping itself nice and safe from any potential attacks from that Shadow Ball we expect to come out. Shadow Ball coming through, however, targeting into the Terra Flutter main, doing a fair amount of damage, getting a fortunate special defense drop there, which will matter in later turns, and Flutter main returning with a Moonblast into the other Jack's Flutter main and doing over 50%, which is a lot of damage. Blizzard coming through here, and we'll see how much influence that special defense drop has, doing a lot, but still clinging on low HP.
Yeah, exactly. And we saw now that the opposing front main was a bit, seemed to be a bit faster. Might have been a roll, of course, might be a speed tie, but we do see it go for another Shadow Ball a bit faster, going into that Arcanine. Arcanine managing to hang on another Spadef drop there on that end, but is able to eat a bit of its berry, just being able to heal a bit more damage off, so possibly being able to survive for example, a blizzard as well. As you do see a moonblast from Floodman into the Abomasnow, doing a lot of damage, a critical hit, but it hanging on thanks to its focus sash. Like, I take it back. Abomasnow is bulky, but not bulky enough to survive a critical hit. Oh, and another critical hit as well from this Arcanine into the Flutter main with a Flare Blitz to boot as well. So that means this Abomasnow is now free to do what it wants. It goes for the Blizzard and is able to kill both of these both these Pokemon as well. Wow, what a turn there. Of course, if the Abomasnow was able to be taken down, would have been maybe a different game there, but it's still hard to say because that opposing Flutter main was still faster. That pressure that the Iron Bundle presented was just oof. It's very scary,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
for sure, it absolutely was. Iron Bundle putting on so much damage in the early game, allowing these KOs to be picked up. However, later on there, we got the Shadow Ball drop, especially into the Arcanine, which I think was incredibly valuable. I think without the Flare Blitz recoil and that special defense drop, Arcanine would have stayed in range to live, and as to live that Blizzard coming through, we'd have had a little bit more interaction, and it might still have been a loss for Salad picking up with it being Arcanine on low HP at that point. However, it'd have been a good scouting turn to learn out what kind of thing Joshua brought in the back, how they would adapt to that kind of play, and you'd be able to just see what damage you're capable of taking. Well, there's a lot of even though being in open team sheets now, there's this sort of thing. It's like, scouting isn't as valuable as it should be. No, there's still plenty of factors in a game to scout, such as how a player decides they want to adapt to the teams they've seen in their open team sheet with what they want to bring, and similarly, how Pokemon are still trained. Well, we're open team sheet for moves and the actual Pokemon and abilities. They were not open team sheets on statistics and training, so there's still hidden values to be pulled through, and it's always worth playing out, especially that first game, to its conclusion to get as much information possible.
There's always a chance. There's always that little bit of chance where you're just like we can say that games are set in stones, but like sometimes your opponent might slip up. It can happen. Yeah, you don't see something, your opponent doesn't see something. These are all factors into the game. There's always stress involved as well. So look, it's gonna be amazing to see what now will be changed in game 2. Honestly, I feel the Iron Hands might come out a little bit quicker now because of the fear of snow. Because you don't want that Abomasnow being able to go for that Terra Water, just being able to just choose whatever it wants to do. But you can threaten it then with a wall charge, for example, which I think would be nice for it. But yeah, and now we do have a bit more information as well. We do know that the Flutter main on the opposing end is faster than Ice Silence. So from Jarcel's, Flutter main is faster than Ice Salad's Flutter main, which is, of course, something to keep in mind. And what we also know is that a Moonblast Terra Fairy crit can definitely kill an Abomasnow.
Absolutely. Even through Royal critical hits. This has been a very critical week for all teams with the amount of critical hits we've been seeing across a lot of these games. It's definitely something to watch out for, and we will see another critical hit coming through an important turn in this turn 1 or onwards.
Yep, exactly. Let's see what this might bring to game two here, as they are both preparing to get ready for the next battle. Because if that battle went as well as the first one, let's enjoy this second one as well. Since we do see the Fluttermane and the King Gambit now, as the Iron Hands and the Among Us, as I said, the Iron Hands coming out a bit sooner this time around, and the Fluttermane enjoying its boosted energy, of course, and its speed was high. It's something I missed actually last turn. That's why the opposing Fluttermane, of course, was faster. Oh, silly me.
No, it's all right. It's easy to miss in the heat of battle, especially as long games go long. These boosts, we as casters sadly don't have the fortune that players do to have access to that little summary screen you can pull up in front of you to see all these stat boosts and changes that are going on mid game. These adaptations from both players trying to adapt to each other's leads, and in doing so, changing the entire game for this turn one and looking entirely different. King Gambit leaving the field as quick as possible, scared of any potential close combat coming in. However, a Bomber Stone doesn't really want to take that either, so it's an interesting switch coming through, setting up the snow and being threatened by the board. Amoongus also leaving the field here, a switch party for all teams, and Tinglu coming in to lower that damage from Fluttermane.
Yeah, exactly. Fluttermane now with the Moonblast come do a bit less, as we do see not doing all that much to Iron Hands. Oh no, he lost his special attack. What will he do now? It is close combats. Catch these hands from into the Abominable Snow, putting it down to its focus sash at least still.
Yeah, living that on that focus sash is going to be very important for that Bomber Snow. Will be interesting to see how if that Bomber Snow is quicker than the Iron Hands and the Tinglu. I expect it will be, but there is always that chance that things could be trained slightly differently, and that Aurora Veil should be going up. Iron Hands with the Tinglu buff as well, or deep debuff. Yeah, living that Moonblast incredibly healthily, and actually just kind of not scared of Fluttermane. Seeing after all of that. Tinglu being also very well positioned here to threaten that Fluttermane. If a Bomberstone wants to go for its Aurora Veil, it's also scared being sat on 1 HP. I think while there was a lot of switches on both ends, it was definitely a more successful play for Salad.
Yep, and we do see the terrestrialization there on the Tinglu this time around, going for that Terra Fire, now being able to resist any type of fairy move that this Fluttermane might be going for, really. On the other hand, we also have, of course, at a Bomberstone with a Blizzard that won't do as much. As we see the second Moonblast, still not KOing this Iron Hands, so speed boosting your Fluttermane, not really showcasing its special attack prowess, as the Aurora Veil does get set up by the Zabamo, and the Volt Switch will take care of the Zabamo at the same time as well. Meaning this Iron Hands will go back, can be switched out for something else, a little slow switching there to make sure that possibly a later fake out turn could be used there as well, as the Among Us does come out. And now the last one to move still is that Tinglu going for that heavy slam through Aurora Veil. Let's see if it is a KO. It still is a solid KO, of course, because this Tinglu, let's not forget, is Choice Banded. So a very strong opening there to make sure that the Abomaso and the Fluttermane are gone in one single turn.
Yeah, that's a lot of He's now two whole Pokemon up over Jarshal, and it was a very strong play. King Gambit and Iron Bundle returning to the field to try and recover this match. We only see Iron Hands that's taken a little bit of damage here. Everything else on Salad's side of the field is untouched and capable of doing whatever it wants to here. Amoongus is a little bit worried in front of these blizzards, but Tinglu is going to keep it alive and do plenty on its own. King Gambit, I think, it's got potential to sit and do things, but again, isn't too happy to be sat in front of that Tinglu right now. So, Salad turning around the momentum from that previous loss into a very comfortable position for game two.
Yeah, exactly. Tinglu, of course, being stuck into that heavy slam, not really enjoying this as much as it should, because of course, well, the Iron Ball actually going for its Terra now, Terra Ice. So suddenly, this heavy slam is bound to do a bit more damage because now there's no longer a water type to stand in the way of this heavy slam. As the Iron Ball does go for a Blizzard, just going for as much damage as possible into this Among Us. Among Us just going down. Tinglu still taking a bit of damage. Tinglu actually not switching at all. Might have been a very good read there on Ice Salad's side, just making sure that the King Gambit was able to knock that out, as we do see the heavy slam onto the iron bundle, and then of course an attack from the King Gambit into the Tinglu as the Iron Hands comes in to just pressure with a possible fake out there. We already know that the Iron Bundle is the choice scarf, so that means that it will be if choice specs, that means that it will be free to fake out there on that side, while this Tinglu is able to go for another heavy slam or potentially just take this turn to switch out really.
Yeah, I think Tinglu is sticking around for a little while. It could switch to reset. That fake out will be good. I think having that fake out and the heavy slam here is pretty safe, just to take out the iron bundle and stop it doing anything. And there we go. There's that fake out. King Gamma go for the sucker punch here, putting a nice dent into Tinglu. That was a potential thing. Bundle taking its flinch turn there, and heavy slam coming through, finishing off that iron bundle. That Iron Bundle put out so much damage last turn. I didn't know, with that Terra Ice, with the choice specs, and that Blizzard, even with Tinglu's debuff in play, is still OHKOing Amoonguss, that famously bulky Pokemon that's usually easy to take attacks of that power. Just shows how much damage it's capable of. Both the Pokemon on our Salad side of the field sitting in the red now, however, staring down. It is a full HP King Gambit, but that is 3 Pokemon staring down 1.
Exactly. King Gambit now in an interesting position because it can Sucker Punch a Tinglu, predicting that the Iron Hands will be switched out for the next Pokemon, or it can, because like the Iron Hands is definitely faster than the King Gambit, but it is Tinglu that is being switched out into that for that Fluttermane slot. So meaning if this King Gambit went for a potential Sucker Punch into that Iron Hands, could potentially kill that, but then you have that choice band at Tinglu and the Fluttermane to deal with, which is a bit harder to deal with, as we do see the Sucker Punch into the Iron Hands, not even taking the KO, as the Iron Hands is just able to go for a close combat and just for super duper effectively hit this King Gambit and just take it down as well.
Yeah, doing a lot of that. I think, as we were mentioning, I think it's something we were talking about before the stream as well. The Sucker Punch game is always an interesting game to be sitting and playing in things there. And if that Sucker Punch had picked up the KO on the Iron Hands, there was every chance that Sucker Punch games could turn that around for Joshua. However, Iron Hands, being as physically bulky as it is, having one of the highest defense stats and highest HPs of most Pokemon in the current format, it took that quite comfortably
It
and
actually,
helped.
yeah, it was very nice to see there. You also had the possibility if the Iron Hands went for fake out, for example, then the Sucker Punch would have failed as well. But that is unnecessarily playing, because I do feel like the correct play was made there. Switching out, like just Iron Hands go for close combat while the Tinglu switches out. So you have the potential of that Tinglu being able to be switched in and just go for a ground move in the next turn, should the Iron Hands have gone down as well.
Yeah, it was I think
So
it was the correct play from both sides, and it was just relying on a little bit of damage and a little bit of unknown knowledge, and that is now known knowledge for going into game 3 with.
exactly. So let's see what the adaptation will be. Will Snow come back here? Will the Iron Hands prove yet again that it will is a very good Pokemon to have, certainly versus Snow? Let's see what happens there as we go into game 3. So honestly, I want to see the Abomasnow again. I liked it. If it stays on the field, I kind of like it. So let it stay. As we do see the Abomasnow together with the Fluttermane this time around, which will get that speed boost thanks to that Protosynthesis and the Iron Hands, and the other Fluttermane, of course, from Salad side, which will get a special attack raise.
Yeah, I like this lead from Salad because while Abomasnow is looking relatively unthreatened, like it could get its stuff up, there's still always that close combat. There's still always fake out. Fluttermane is nice on Joshal's side, as it is avoiding that fake out and forcing the attack to be made into Abomasnow, putting a lot of control on the field subconsciously. And we see Fluttermane leaving the field here for Salad. Interesting to see these changes. Tinglu coming in to keep that vested Iron Hands alive with all of its HP from before. Helping Hand coming through from Abomasnow, which is a different change to see. This could put out a lot of damage from Fluttermane. Shadow Ball going into that Tinglu slots. That was a really well read thing and doing very little damage even onto the thing, but picking up the special defense drop, which would be important later. Wild Charge coming out into the Fluttermane, not quite picking up the KO, but doing a lot of damage.
That was a great play there to see. Just sacrificing your booster energy to switch into Tinglu so your Iron Hands can be the one to deal the damage, which I think was a very well played there. We do have the Obama, so still being able to have the possibility of putting up the Auroraville. It is still faster than either of these Pokemon here, as the Iron Hands is actually being switched out right now for the Amoonguss. So if a Blizzard is incoming, this Amoonguss will not enjoy where its root have been landing, because that will be cold, as we do see the terrestrialization on the Tinglu becoming yet again a fire type, meaning if they went for another Shadow Ball with a drop special defense helping hand. That could do a bit more, of course, because now it is no longer resisted, but it is still a bandit. As we do see the Moonblast in the Amoonguss, this is being played very well as a special attack. This Flutterman has been getting a lot of drops there, I gotta say. As we do see the Aurora Veil from the Abomasnow, as the Tinglu is able to go for a heavy slam into the Abomasnow, not KOing it, but doing quite a bit of damage, meaning this Flutterman has one more turn to go with to do really anything it wants.
Yeah, Rawvale coming in clutch there to keep that Bomber Snow a little bit more healthy and give it one more turn to operate how it wants. Amoonguss is now actually quite scared of the position it's in because it probably drops to a Blizzard and a Shadow Ball. However, um, but Tinglu with the Vessel of Ruin could turn those into potential damage rolls. It'll be interesting to see the changes there. Amoonguss still has a lot of agency on its own right. Should it live any of these, it could pick a KO on either of these Pokemon using its Pollen Puff, or even try and keep Tinglu topped back up. Tinglu itself, Heavy Slam, is quite happy to hit anything that's coming in. Amoonguss actually leaving the field here in favor of Iron Hand, setting up that fake out pressure again for next turn.
Exactly. And now with this offense also being able to take the Shadow Ball a bit nicer, as we do see the Shadow Ball not, hopefully not getting a drop this time, not this time, as the Blizzard comes out, maybe hoping for a freeze. Of course, Blizzard freeze can always happen. Fortunately not, as the Heavy Slam does manage to take out this Abomasnow. Really shows that this Floodmane not going for the Protect and just being able to still output this much damage, even though there's a Tinglu there on the field, being able to go for any potential heavy slams. As we do see the Great Tusk come out, and Great Tusk threatens both of these Pokemon with a nice solid Earthquake there.
Yeah, it definitely keeps things interesting. Great Tusk is very threatening here, but also the prime target for that fake out once again. Fluttermane still being not threatened, still being a ghost type. But I think the Fluttermane either is going to get its last little bit of damage gain and go down, or it's going to be switching out in favor of something on the other side to come back in later and try and clean up with the Assault Vest, with the Tinglu on the field. It's putting out a fair amount of damage, but it is also not putting out as much as most Fluttermanes would like to. Tinglu leaving the field here to actually send that damage back up, and Amoonguss coming in.
Yeah, and
Oh, he likes
Amoonguss
the
coming in
Earthquake
is
a little bit
interesting.
more.
The Iron Hands does go for the fake out, as we do see that the Great Tusk will be flinching in a second. As the Floodmane does go for the Moonblast, just not fearing anything. Has it protected in the last 3 turns, even being on like 20, not even 20 HP. Honestly, let's say it's like 3% of its HP, as Iron Hands does manage to hang on. But now the Great Tusk is able to go for a move there together with the Fluttermane. Fluttermane just being able to, for example, Dazzling Gleam, making sure that it is able to kill the Iron Hands, even though this Mungus could go for a Rage Powder, trying to redirect as much as possible. But it will still not like being on the receiving end of a Headlong Rush, because it is still a neutral move and still 120 base power as well.
Yeah, nothing likes to receive a ground type close combat except flying types. However, Amoonguss is capable of resisting it. Shadow Ball coming in here, putting a fair dent into Amoonguss, being quite bulky. Rock Slide, we can play our flip. Where there's a Rock Slide, there's a way, as is always history. Amoonguss living there quite comfortably from both of these attacks here and going for the Spore, connecting, putting those spores onto Great Tusk. I'll put my teeth in, and does manage to get that Great Tusk to sleep.
Yeah, and the Fluttermane still being there. Like, honestly, quite impressive to see. It is able to go for a Protect right now, but that means the Aurora Veil will wear out in the next turn. So you really have to choose what you do here in this regard. You could go just for any sort of attack, but this Great Tusk needs to wake up as soon as possible, because it is one of those Pokemon that is still able to output as much damage as possible. Yeah, missing the rock slide, like the no flinch on the Amoongus is a little bit unfortunate, of course, on the Great Tusk side, because you have to go for that, because you know that Shadow Ball or like Dazzling Plus Headlong Rush will not KO. So it is kind of seeing as the Floodmane does go for the protect, trying to make sure that it is able to survive, give this Great Tusk one more turn of trying to wake up, because a rock slide would be so nice against this Ting Lu, which is now a fire type, as we do see the Stomping Tantrum into that Fluttermane, and the Amoongus just being able to pollen puff this Ting Lu, just healing it just back to full.
Yeah, getting all of that work that the Fluttermane have been putting into trying to chip away that Tinglu with all of its fairy type and ghost type moves, getting that little bit of damage, all taken away by a little bit of pollen. Great Tusk on its now having taken its first full turn of sleep has potential to wake up and start being threatening again. However, it has decided to leave the field instead, bringing replaced by an Iron Bundle, which again does like to sit in front of these two if it wasn't for that Vessel of Ruin. Shadow Ball coming through, going to hit onto Amoongus through Vessel of Ruin, actually doing a fair amount of damage. However, the Citrus Berry healing it back up as if it hadn't taken that attack at all.
Yeah, and the Stomping Tantrum coming out into the Fluttermane, finally taking down this Fluttermane that has been on this much HP for quite a while, but still exerting that much pressure. As the Amoongus actually just went for another Spore, predicting maybe that the Great Tusk would wake up, or maybe predicting a switch just as much, because Great Tusk doesn't want to be locked into that Rock Slide. If it has options to choose, Rock Slide is probably not, well, depends on what kind of player you are. I want to say, because like if you like clicking rock side and getting flinches, of course that's really great. But maybe seeing that headlong rushes is a bit better, because headlong rush can get a kill and Tinglu can get a kill on Fluttermane, especially like because this is not a speed boosting Fluttermane. And yeah, so it's like these options that you have to weigh off, of course. So now seeing what can happen here, really, that's the question.
Yeah, I think a lot of these plays, especially going for that Spore, catching both the Iron Bundle and the Great Tusk while they're sleeping is absolutely massive for momentum here. Fluttermane switching in for that Amoongus, potentially to threaten that Great Tusk. Great Tusk is carrying on with its nap as Iron Bundle does the same, takes its first turn of sleep. However, Tinglu going for that Stomping Tantrum, putting big damage with that band into Iron Bundle.
Yeah, exactly. Big band damage, and Iron Bundle not really enjoying the look of this. If one of these two can wake up, they can do quite a bit of damage. Of course, Iron Bundle can go for a Hydro Pump, KOing this, not KOing, can do quite a bit to this Tinglu. But on the other hand, we have the Great Tusk that is able to go for a Headlong Rush, might be able to kill something as well. But the main important thing is you cannot let this Fluttermane be on this field. You need to kill this Fluttermane if possible right now, as we do see the terrestrialization here, a final terrestrialization, trying to see maybe if it wakes up. It is that Great Tusk going for that Terra Steel, trying to make sure that any sort of Dazzling Gleam will not kill it, or any Moonblast with that steel typing. So let's see what happens. It does wake up together with the terrestrialization and long rush into the Fluttermane, does manage to get the kill, meaning now if the Iron Bundle is able to wake up, this can be quite threatening as well, because if it does manage to go for a ice move onto this Amoongus, it is able to close out the game, but it will stay asleep one more turn, as now the Amoongus, which is almost full health, still has the possibility to go for a Rage Powder and just make sure that any kind of moves from this Great Tusk will be redirected to itself.
Yeah, that was very impressive there to get that wake up and that KO. Terra Steel is incredibly valuable. However, it is now weak to that Tinglu, so it's not going to be sticking around quite so long from it. It was unfortunate getting the turn one wake up and Iron Bundle. I think if that turn had come through, this Amoongus would not be able to Rage Powder quite so comfortably. Speaking of that Rage Powder, it goes through, takes big damage from the Headlong Rush. It's already eaten its berry, so it's actually going to have to sit there at this HP this time. Both of its defenses lost through the Great Tusk Freeze Dry coming in and getting the Execute on Amoongus. However, Bundle is going to be staring down the Tinglu very shortly. A Stomping Tantrum goes into that -2 defense on Great Tusk, hitting it for super effective. Now it's a Steel type and picking up the KO.
Yeah, so it's Bundle versus Lu, And if I recall correctly, this bundle is specs, and if it's specs in freeze dry, it is not going to enjoy this unless, of course, you have that magic thing that can happen, which is luck, which is freezing, but unfortunately not. And we do see the stopping tantrum KO this iron bundle, meaning this means that Ice Salad has won the battle. And honestly, what a game it was! It was had a lot of ups and downs and lefts and rights. It was just a roller coaster. There's no other way of describing this, as
Yeah, for
this
sure.
was a good
There was a
match to
lot
see.
of play going on there. I really enjoyed that game. Um, both players played particularly well, while there was elements of luck on both sides of things going through, I don't think any of it was particularly unbalanced. And genuinely, like Terrifier, Choice Banded,
Yeah,
Tinglu brought through so much damage and lived way more attacks than I think, like, well, at least personally, that I predicted it would do, and caused so many problems. It managed to pull Salad through those last two games, especially with Iron Hands as
exactly.
well.
Yeah, exactly. That technology really proving, and like that's the nice thing about choice band, because I've seen people also instead of choice band play clear amulet, so you can't get intimidated, and also still with that Terra Fire, so you can get will either way. So there's like, it's as you said, Tinglu has so many possibilities. Because for Floodmane, you most of the time you know it. There's like three, four things that you do with it, right? But Tinglu has so much diversity in its sets. Even though you're running the same items, the bulk is the amount of bulk or offense really depends way more for Tinglu, because Tinglu is just one of those Pokemon that can really be a little bit more fluid with it as well, as opposed to Fluttermane, which is can have some defenses, so it can survive some moves, but it can be that defensive that it can survive any type of moves, like Tinglu does.
Yeah, Tinglu can live just about anything we need to throw it. As we mentioned before, it's just an incredibly versatile Pokemon that can sit on a lot of different team types. Um, and not only is it on the defensive teams, it's on the offensive teams, keeping its offensive threats alive. It's offensive itself, as we've seen with the Choice Band. I think it's just an incredibly versatile Pokemon. However, speaking of versatile, what are we thinking to a lot of this ice that's flowing around?
Well,
I think we've seen ice in every game today.
we've seen a lot of ice. That's true. I think there's like one or two games that we haven't seen. No, what? Maybe one game. But like ice, like snow is so nice. Well, yeah, okay, ice is nice, haha. But let's be honest. It is so nice to see that Abomaso is being able to be used, and instead of like what people would assume was with the Sea Titan, now being so well versed together with the Iron Bundle, because Iron Bundle, of course, having a great offensive typing with that ice and water typing, which just helps it so much offensively, just to hit so many things at the same time as well. Because yeah, you do have Hydro Pump, unfortunately, that miss Rip Skulls. But let's be if a lot of water types are missing skulls, so to say, but like Hydro Pump still being a move that is very strong and very easily to use as well. As we can actually go and talk about the next game that is coming up.
Yeah, we have one last game ready for us. It's another one on cart, and we have Xeno, otherwise known as Eden, and Gem hitting the field for us. I think we've got some interesting teams, and I think the first time today we have a game without a bomber snow.
Yeah, exactly. It's no Obama Snow, but we have seen this Corviknight. We have seen this Corviknight with Sandy Shocks earlier as well, which is interesting to see. But that the first, like, let's talk about the team on the right first from Gem side, uh, on Gem their side. So we have the Corviknight, we have the Palafin, we have the Amoonguss, Arcanine, Fluttermane, and then we have Sandy Shocks. So kind of balance, but not, well, a little bit more different. But then on the other side, we have to talk about the dog in the room, so to speak. We have a Dashbun.
That is Darkborn. It's a very interesting pick, and I'm curious as to what's going on. And I'm inclined to say that might lead to a cheeky lava plume coming out from their Chi Yu here, which is holding the scarf, so there could be some shenanigans going on here. I think these are both interesting teams, similar in intent and different in execution. So we'll see what comes out from the leads.
Exactly. So it's gonna be interesting to see what it'll be because I tried playing with Darkspawn as well, but not very much succeeding. I think it was a very nice Pokemon to have. Like it's a nice fairy typing being very defensively. You could Terra Steel possibly as well, and Body Press is just very nice, especially if you get hit by a fire move. As we do see the Sandy Shocks and the Arcanine come out. As on the other hand, we have the Chi and the Iron Bundle, which is a combination that I really like myself because Chi-Yu paving the way for Iron Bundle is so good because you don't need that choice specs anymore because now you can do damage with boost energy, just outspeeding everything possibly on the field and just being able to really hit that Hydro Pump freeze rise just as hard as possible as you can.
Yeah, it's a very effective core as well. You've got the Fluttermane, the Iron Bundle, and that Chi-Yu on teams together as they cover each other's weaknesses very efficiently, but they also just put out so much damage and hit so hard and very quickly. Coming out on the opposing side for Gem, we have the Arcanine and the Sandy Shocks here, a little bit more slower in overall play, though Sandy Shocks is definitely not a slow Pokemon. Hydro Pump coming out here from the Iron Bundle and hitting into Sandy Shocks, not picking up the KO. However, Heatwave finishing off the job there and doing a solid chunk to Arcanine. We'll see how Arcanine's going to respond in a moment. It is going for a Flare Blitz into Eden's Iron Bundle and putting a big amount of damage in return, but taking a lot in that recoil. I think it was a very powerful turn there for Eden.
Yeah, exactly. Just being able to deal with the Sandy Shocks so well, because Sandy Shocks is a very interesting Pokemon that you can play quite special defensive, but yeah, Eden's Sandy Shocks wasn't able to live a Heat Wave plus a Hydro Pump. Of course, Hydro Pump being amazingly strong, super effective, and then you've got the Chi-Yu next to it as well, which doesn't help either as well. As we do have the Fluttermane now being able to switch in, which does threaten quite a bit with any potential Dazzling Gleam being able to pick up any KO here, or a Moonblast onto the Chi, which could also break up a KO. As the Terrestrialization onto the Fluttermane does go off, as we see the Terra Fairy, meaning this will be a strong fairy move coming out very soon.
Yeah, Terra Fairy coming through. Extreme Speed coming out of the Arcanine first, hitting into Chi-Yu, breaking any, doing the extra little bit of damage to keep, hopefully keeping it into, putting it into KO range. Heat, Freeze Dry hitting into Fluttermane. However, Fluttermane avoiding that Heat Wave is pretty big. Arcanine taking some big damage, and Dazzling Gleam coming out from that Terra boost is going to put some big damage, especially with Chi-Yu lowering other defenses of its ally.
Yeah, doing quite a bit of damage, but not taking out the Chiu just yet. But we already know that Chiu is a choice scarf variant, meaning that it can only click Heatwave or switch out, meaning this Arcanine has the potential to go for an extreme speed and KO this Chiu. Of course, on the other hand, you have Johnny Vegas, the Iron Hands, which is able to fake out either Fluttermane or the Arcanine. But you really have to start thinking, what are you gonna do? Because that Fluttermane is looking mighty threatening right now to your own to, of course, your own Iron Hands. You have to find a way to deal with this Arcanine so it can't extreme speed your Chi-Yu, so your Chi-Yu has potential to try and go and hit the Heat Wave this time around. As we do see the Amoonguss being switched in instead of the Chi-Yu, as the Terrestrialization does activate onto the Iron Hands as well. Iron Hands just turning into a typing that does help it a bit with its fairy weakness because, of course, it is fire. Fire resisting fairy is one of those key things that is quite important to have. And also making sure that I cannot get Willis by Arcanine as well. Arcanine goes for the protect, trying to scout out what is going to happen here. As the Floodman does just go for a Dazzling Gleam, trying to pick up a kill on the Iron Hands or the Chi from earlier, but being switched out in between as the Arcanine protects from the Iron Hands' move.
Yeah, Terrifier coming in absolutely clutch there. Normally, we see a lot of Iron Hands being Terra Grassed and not be scared of Amoonguses. Have a Terrifier here looking like Eden's. Iron Hands is a little bit more on the offensive side, as we can see a little preview in move selection there. Terrifier keeping it very much alive, keeping it very protected in this matchup. I think it's absolutely perfect. And having the Chi leave to preserve itself valuable. We see Amoonguss going for Protect here, keeping itself alive from any potential chip damage coming through. And Fluttermane getting a Substitute down is very valuable. That will keep it alive much longer in later turns. And Thunder Punch, however, connecting into that Corviknight slot, doing massive damage, catching that switch very valuably, but taking a little bit in return from a Rocky Helmet.
Yeah, exactly. And now we have the possibility, of course, Covenant is able to go for a potential Brave Bird and trying to kill this, this Among Us, of course. But then you, of course, you need to deal with this Iron Hand somehow as well, as we do see the Shadow Ball coming out from the Fluttermane into this Iron Hands, doing quite a bit of damage. This might actually be range for it as well if Covenant went for attack. But Corviknight just going for a roost, just healing up as much damage as possible, as Johnny Vegas does go for the Thunder Punch again to the Fluttermane this time around, just breaking the substitute. As we know already what the Amoonguss is going to do, it is going to pull and puff this Iron Hands just a little bit back to its health, so that it is sure to be able to take another one of these Shadow Balls from this Fluttermane.
Yeah, that Pollen Puff is putting a lot of damage, a lot of healing, even bringing it back up. Corviknight also healing. We've seen a full Pokemon's worth of health return to the field this game, or this round even. And the substitute taking a lot of that damage, keeping Fluttermane alive. Rage Powder coming through for Amoonguss, redirecting some of these attacks, keeping its Iron Hand friend still alive. Substitute coming in once more for Fluttermane, trying to keep itself alive and keep it protected from any spores or any other attacks coming through. Bravebird coming in, putting big damage into Amoonguss and actually picking up the KO there, leaving Iron Hands to go for the attack of its choice and free reign. It goes for the Thunder Punch. It goes for the Thunder Punch into the Fluttermane, and once again breaking that substitute, not letting it keep its safety net on the field.
Yeah, very well played there. Just making sure that the Fluttermane was able to survive for another turn. Now Chiyu can come in and does threaten the Corviknight and the Fluttermane, because it is, of course, a Scarf variant, which can be quite scary to do so. And yeah, the Iron Hands itself, of course, being one of those bulkier Pokemon that is able to take quite some hits as well. As we do see the Chi just go for Lava Plume, not even want to risk the miss, really, not really hurting the Iron Hands either, because it can get burnt. And we do see the critical hit on Corviknight, as we have seen today as well. So Corviknight's really not having their day today.
Yeah, Corviknight suffering there from the crit. Again, we've seen Corviknight's EV to live Heat Wave, so there's every chance that it could have taken that without the critical hit. But we see the Drain Punch coming out from Iron Hands, which I think would have picked up the KO. Maybe would have lost what was remaining of Chiyu to an attack. However, we've just got Arcanine left on the field, and I don't think that crit changed too much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, Arcanine still not that healthy. It is able to go for a extreme speed into the Chi-Yu slot, of course. Just try and make sure that the Chi-Yu at least goes down first. But actually go for the extreme speed into the Iron Hands, as this Chi-Yu is able to go for another Lava Plume. Meaning this Arcanine will be even a bit lower now with this resisted fire hit. But it can still, manage to KO the Arcanine there in that regard. Meaning that Aiden did lose this game, but Zeno with the Terrifier Iron Hands putting in quite a bit of work.
Yeah, Terrifying Iron Hands put in a lot of work. It was very threatening on the board position for them. And it was unfortunate. I say the crit might have been a little bit unfortunate for Gem there. However, I don't think in the grand scheme of things that wrapped things up. We've got a couple of, obviously there's still games to be played, and that was still fairly well fought on both sides. So it's too hard to call potential predictions going into next time. What would you like to see adaptation wise from either player? Obviously, I'm excited to see Dakbun come out. I would love to see Dakbun come out. However,
I don't think it's a
might not
great
be-
pick right now. Yeah, unfortunately,
there's a Corviknight staring it down, looking to give it an Iron Head, and
it's Corviknight, and then there's also, of course, that Fluttermane, which hits on the special side, and Dashbun doesn't really have that great of a special defense. It has amazing defense stat, and it gets even more higher when hit by a Lava Plume, raising its defense even higher. But if you're not able to body press or hit anything with it, like for example the Fluttermane, it's not really that useful. The Scarf Chiyu really putting in work together with the Iron Bundle in the beginning was really solid there to see what they did. But yeah, it's hard to say what will be brought. I do feel that the sub Flood Main on Aiden's side was really good. Was a really good set to bring, definitely, because the game could have ended completely differently depending on whether or not Zeno predicted a sub or not. So
Yeah,
um,
that's sub Fluttermane is one of those Pokemon that it's a little bit of a risk to try and get that sub down. You're sacrificing your HP for it, but it kind of pseudo operates in the same slot as protect. The amount of speed that you have, you're going to get it up 90% of the time. It'll protect you from at least one attack. And if your opponent makes one wrong call and decides to dodge you, thinking you're going for either a protect if you're carrying both on the set. I haven't seen the set in this occasion, so I couldn't tell you. However, in those situations, you can be protected, and it will just set up that safety net for that flutter main to be able to get
yeah.
so much advantage behind a substitute. I think trying to get that up should be the priority for Gem going forward.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see what game two will bring. It is exciting to see because this is of course the final match that we are able to spectate for today. But let's make it a good one. Let's make it a great one. Let's make it an amazing one, and let's see what these players will bring and what we can tell about them as well. So are we gonna see Dashboard? Yes or no? Lock it in your answers right now. I don't think so. As we do see Floodmane and the Palafin, as we do see
We
the
see the
Dashbun.
duck bud.
Yeah, the
Oh,
Dark Bun is there together with the Chiyu as well. So can prove to be quite offensive as well. Lava Plume being a move which is also very nice to have because it has potential to burn a lot of things. So Palafin definitely not wanting, potentially not wanting to risk to stay in either way. So let's see what happens here. As we do see the Darksbun does have Snarl as well to hit the Fluttermane potentially with as well.
yeah, Dapon's very interesting here. We're getting the Lava Plume. We did get a cheeky view at what the Terra type for Eden's Chiyu was as well. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. Chiyu is threatened still royally by both of the both the Gems leads. We've got a Terra type coming out here, so we do get to see that Terra type that we saw in the preview of Terra Ghost coming out on the Chiyu, removing its water weakness, which is particularly handy staring down a Palafin, especially one that is staying in and staying as the baby Palafin here. And the Terra type also coming out for Gem. This is very early Terra. We're seeing our Disco Balls and our Crystals coming through. We're getting the Terra Fairy. We're getting that Love Heart on the head of Fluttermane.
Yeah, exactly. And Floodmane now really threatening their Dashboom because like it's low special defense, not really being helped with even lower, and thanks to that Chiyu. As we do see the Lava Plume into these Pokemon, as the Jet Punch doesn't do that much damage to the Chiyu. Lava Plume not doing that much, but raising the defense of the Darkspoon, as the Dazzling Gleam comes out, does kill the Chiyu, doesn't kill the Darkspoon at least. So the Darkspoon still sticking around, but taking quite a bit of damage thanks to that Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah, it's getting its boosted body press, however, with its defense going up, putting a fair amount of damage into that Palafin in return and ticking up its leftovers healing there. That was a very good turn for Gem. I think a very good solid up trade. Taking out Chiyu, putting that one of the main speed threats down a little bit, getting a little bit of damage off on a lot of damage actually into that now defense boosted Dakbun. However, coming into the field, we've got Iron Bundle triggering its booster energy and threatening a bit more speed control across this board.
Yeah, just being able to potentially KO the Floodmane, maybe being able to kill the Floodmane from this range with a potential Hydro Pump. Palafin not really being able to do much against this Darkspoon. Of course, it is able to haste, for example, to remove the defense boost, but it's still quite low. And I don't know if you want to risk your Palafin for this. Maybe keep it for a bit later as well. Just to make sure that it is able to put any work in, as we do see the switch out from the Palafin, just trying to preserve it, making sure that you can use that hero form as the Arcanine comes in with its Intimidate, trying to lower any sort of attack that might be coming in. Not really mattering for either of these Pokemon, as we do see the Hydro Pump into the Floodmane. Is it enough? It is not enough. The Fluttermane going for another Dazzling with that Terra Fairy with versus these two Pokemon that don't have good special defense, going down on both of them. And this Floodmane just proving how strong it is right now. It does not need any sort of substitutes this time around. It is just able to clean up on aisle 4.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a very strong turn. I think there could have been options for some speed control, some switching, a couple of shenanigans going on. However, this is a very big turnaround from the previous game for Gem, turning that loss into a very convincing win against the Dakbun. We see the Dakbun coming out, showing us the spice. However, its body may be well baked, but it did not happen to pull through what it needed to in that game.
Yeah, the play was a bit undercooked. Like even though the lava plume was sure to make that bread rise, get that bread. What other bread puns can we possibly make? Really, not feeling really toasty there.
Oh, this is particularly breadful.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good one. I didn't realize that one. But yeah, it's hard to come up with bread puns in another language, but still, this was quite amazing to see how much effort like to put in the dashboard still trying to do so. But the Fluttermane just proving how strong it is with a dazzling gleam, just being able to clean up that easily with that Terra Fairy. It is Terra Fairly terrifying, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it put out so much damage. Like, just let it clean up everything it needed to do, breaking through, taking up the Oko with a dazzling gleam onto the Iron Bundle is particularly impressive stuff. And we'll have one more game to see which one of Xeno or Gem is capable of pulling up the victory for their teams.
Yeah, exactly. So let's see what comes out of the oven in this battle. Will it be another bread dog coming out, or will it be a solid baked victory? I've got nothing anymore.
It's fine. It's all come at once. It's all good. It's all good. And our leads are coming out. We've got Fluttermane and Powerfin hitting the field for Gem, and we've got the Chiyu and Iron Bundle once again for Xeno. Xeno running it back for the game one lead, whereas Gem feeling game two is more powerful for them. Quark Drive activating, getting that speed boost, and again, Quark Drive Protosynthesis. It's the same thing.
It's the
Getting a
same.
special attack boost on the Fluttermane, which is part of the reason it's doing so much damage with the attacks it needs to do.
Yeah, exactly. Now we already have seen that Chiu wasn't afraid to go for any sort of Terra, so the Palafin must be able to consider that. Maybe keep your Palafin for a bit later. But Palafin is one of those Pokemon that is very nice to have, very strong, but it doesn't really do as much to that Iron Bundle, of course. Now, if the Iron Bundle and the Chiyu try to focus down onto this Flutterman because it was proving such a huge threat the previous turn, maybe being able to deal with Floodmane turn one would prove to be amazing. As we see no switches, the Terrestrialization activate onto this Chiyu, making it again a ghost type. Woo, with an amazing ghost hat, of course. This little fish can do it, as we do see another terrestrialization there on the other side, as it is the probably the flutter. Oh no, it is the Palafin this time around, going for that Terra Water, just trying to do as much damage as possible with any sort of Jet Punch or Wave Crash as it can do in its zero form, which I find still a rude name to say to a Pokemon. But as we do see Jet Punch come out into the Chiyu, doing a little bit over half, but not enough, as the Freeze Ray comes out into that Fluttermane, doing quite a bit of damage, not over too much. But the Overeat tried to make sure that this Fluttermane does not go on a rampage like it did in the previous turn, and the special attack dropping onto the Chiyu as well.
Yeah, it's definitely some interesting series of plays there. We get the Palafin deciding to stay in its baby form, keeping its damage a little bit lower than it could be, but even with that Terra Water Jet Punch putting out massive damage into Chiyu, threatening it, especially for this following turn. Iron Bundle and then getting the double up Fluttermane helped so much dealing with the problems that it had in front of it before, and it caused them during that the game of game two. Taking it out of the field is no longer an issue. Intimidate coming in here for Arcanine. Arcanine itself is still feeling a little threatened, I believe. However, the Chius decided to leave, fearing that extreme speed or jet punch. And Amoonguss coming in. Palafin going to go find his washing up gloves, and Sandy Shock's coming in its place. And
as we
Hydro Pump coming from the Iron Bundle into the Arcanine, taking up a one-hit KO very cleanly.
Wow, this Iron Bundle not missing right now. Of course, we've had a lot of the debates these days about Iron Bundle, if you should run Encore or if you should run Hydro Pump, because Hydro Pump can miss, Encore cannot. But now this Delibird just don't miss. And we do have the Sandy Shocks, of course, that can pose a bit of a threat to the Iron Bundle. But the main issue at hand is that Among Us just being able to make sure that nothing much really will happen, because Earth Power will not do all that much to it. But potentially, if this Sandy Shocks has something like, let's say, Discharge, could do quite a bit actually. As we do see the Thunderbolt just coming out into the Amoongus, unfortunately not doing that much damage, as the Freeze Ride did quite a bit of damage to Sandy Shocks, which which still manages to hold on quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm seeing, based on the damages we've seen here and the damage we saw on Sandy Shocks in game one, that I think this could actually be an Assault Vest Sandy Shocks, which is definitely interesting. Amoongus being on the field does cause a lot of problems for both of Gem's Pokemon. Freeze Dry connecting once again after the Rage Powder's gone through. Earth Power ticking in once more, doing a little bit more than that Thunderbolt did before. Amoongus eating its little citrus berry, getting a lot of its HP back. And then we have Palafin going for a Wave Crash, trying to do as much damage as it can, even if it does sacrifice a bit of its health bar to do so. Putting a big amount of damage into that resisted Amoongus there, but taking a fair bit of recoil in return.
Yeah, this is still not looking great right now, because of course Sandy Shocks and the Palafin being the only Pokemon on the field, and this Iron Bundle just being able to stay on the field thanks to this Amoongus, really, as the Chiyu is being switched in, meaning now you can just go for the KO on the Sandy Shocks. And Sandy Shocks not really being able to do all that much to right now, because it is of course slower than the Iron Bundle. So we do see the Jet Punch into that Chiyu, being able to KO that now with the Terra Water and the Hero form, as the Freeze Ride does come out, managed to KO the Sandy Shocks, meaning it is the Palafin in its hero form versus versus the Amoongus, the Iron Bundle, and in the back, as we see, the Iron Hands. So kind of hard for it to try and win this, especially after we have seen Wave Crash not even two hit KO this Amoongus either way.
Yeah, we often see superheroes trying to save the world, but when they're versus the world, it might not always be the same result. Freeze Dry coming through, taking a picture of Cat Paladin, but is also surviving it. Wave Crash coming through in return, going to hit into the Iron Bundle, doing massive damage to it, even on a resisted and high defense attack. However, the recoil being enough to take itself out, shatter that thing to astralization, and go down, granting a victory for Xeno and the Miners.
That I just want to go back a minute again there, because the way you said a hero saves the world, but if the world is against the hero, that was poetry, man. That was amazing. Well played by both players. That was very well seen, like well adapted. Maybe Dashboon wasn't really the call there, as we might have seen, but sure that Chiyu really putting a lot of work in with Terra Ghost there, just making sure it cannot be faked out, for example, and also being making sure that it cannot be killed by anything that a Palafin can do either way.
Yeah, for sure. It does keep it alive. And generally speaking, those game one and game three for Xeno were very, very convincing wins. It was nice to see Dark Bun in game two, but as we've talked about before, in previous things, sometimes bringing the spice isn't always the call.
Yeah,
And in that game, it proved not to be. However, game one and three turned things around for Eden.
exactly. And yeah, that was amazing. That was very fun. Unfortunately, oh, I just got one. Uh, the Dashboon could not rise to the occasion.
Hey,
That's the last one I've got.
one.
I've got nothing anymore. I'm done.
Yeah,
I've done
that
my
that
best.
is very. And I think with our rather punderful display of bread puns, that does bring us to our conclusion of games we have available to us. Thank you for joining us on the UKIT Week 2 stream. I have been Adam Valquesse Walker. This has been the amazing Shmon, and I am
Yeah.
ready to sign out.
Yeah, exactly. So be sure to watch the next one, and see you guys later as well. Bye.